what a dinosaur actually is by doing stuff like taking it outside like a dog. Yeah, this video is crazy. But before any of that, I first have to wait for it to be delivered, which is going to take about a week. So in the meantime, let's build this thing its dream home with everything it could possibly want. And to do that, well, I've got a lot of stuff. I first put together the glass enclosure to build the dream home inside of. And anyways, now it's time to actually build the dream home, and to do that, there's 5 steps, starting with creating the background. To create the background, I sprayed a ton of foam all along the glass so I could stick a ton of wood to it. You see, I'm basically recreating a forest in here, since that's where frilled dragons live in the wild. And to complete the forest look, I covered it in a ton of dirt and wood chips so it'd look nice and natural, you know. As you can see, this tank is already looking very, very beautiful and natural with all that wood and dirt, but it's also looking a bit brown and lifeless too. So let's get to doing some more stuff, starting with the floor. Now I know I was just complaining about everything being brown, but to make the floor we do got to use some brown dirt. So yeah, the cheapest way to get a bunch of quality dirt is to use one of these compressed coconut fiber bricks, which may not seem like a lot of dirt, but if we add a huge tub of water to it, well, now it's a lot of dirt. Finally, I mixed in a bunch of other types of ground stuff, because that's what forest floors got, you know. Alright, this is starting to look almost like a forest, but we're still missing some key things. So let's move on to step 3, plants and decorations. Now first of all, I've got 2 different types of moss, which to start, I'll use carpet moss, which comes conveniently packaged in this box. Now I always thought moss was just like dead grass or something, but it's actually an alive organism that over time is going to grow and overtake the entire terrarium. Pretty cool. And I also spread a different type of moss around to add a little bit more variety in this tank. Now this moss is absolutely fantastical, you know, it really brings the whole thing to life. But I'm gonna need way more plants if I'm gonna make this thing look like the dinosaur's actual habitat, which means I'm gonna go get some actual plants with leaves and flowers on them and stuff like that. Yeah, so of course I got in my car to go to the best plant store in town. Bruh. Which if you've seen my channel before, you already know where I'm going, baby.
Place your item in the...
Now, I had some people shaming me for going to Walmart for plants in a previous video, but clearly you guys don't understand the fantastical selection of plants they got. I mean, look at all these. Thanks, Walmart, for all these good plants. So I got a couple small plants, and I also got one big one that should make the dinosaur nice and happy. And while I was walking around there, I also saw they had some plant Lego sets, which, you know, I like Lego, so of course I bought some, baby. When I got home, I figured I should just build the Lego set real quick to see how those plants look. So I put that all together, and then I put each of the plants inside of the enclosure and check these out. Yo, this looks so cool. I'm just kidding, this actually looks pretty stupid. I don't know why I spent $50 on this. Get this trash out of here. Instead, I of course got out the plants I bought and planted them around the tank. There we go, this tank is starting to come together well now. But in order to complete the decorations, I need to add a huge piece of wood that goes diagonally from the bottom of the tank to the top of the tank, so that the dinosaur will be able to have easy access to the heat lamp that will be at the top. And this is the only wood I have right now. Definitely not enough to get to the top. So in order to get some more wood, I went outside to find some. Okay, so I basically just need to get some sort of branch that's nice and thick and long, and that's kind of too thin. I need something that's not going to snap under the pressure of the dinosaur, and yeah, that one kind of sucks too. But oh, this one actually looks pretty good. Look at this. My hand kind of wraps around it. That's good thickness. So I went inside and grabbed the biggest knife from my kitchen, and I got to sawing. This should only take like 30 minutes. I'll be done soon. Eventually, I was able to get this fantastical piece of wood that would work perfectly, so I quickly hosed it down to remove dirt and insects and stuff, and brought it back inside. After breaking it down so it would fit, I put it in place and covered the bottom with some more wood. And boom, the decorations are complete in here. But of course, I'm not just gonna leave the tank like this. We've got to first add in some technologies to make this the best enclosure ever, starting with some water technologies. The first water technology I got is this little box, which is actually an automatic humidifier. You see, frilled dragons need the humidity in their enclosure to be pretty high, and basically this, well, you know, it humidifies the enclosure by spraying water everywhere. Nice. The second water technology I got is extremely high tech. It's a water bowl. Yeah, so you know the dinosaur can get a drink of water and stuff. Now, even though I added in this amazing water dish, frilled dragons actually never drink from it. They actually just use it as a bathroom. Yeah. So to allow the dinosaur to actually get a drink of water, I got out this water pump, put it in a container of water, and linked it up with some tubing. Now, when I turn it on, it creates this nice little flow of water, which frilled dragons will actually drink from. Well, now, there's just one more thing to build before I add the frilled dragon in, and that is heat. And basically what that means is I need to recreate the sun in this enclosure. To do that, I got a heavy-duty heat lamp and an expensive top-quality UV bulb that recreates the same UV rays that the sun does. I also got another lamp with a high-intensity heat bulb because frilled dragons like it to be extremely hot in their homes. To test the temperature, I hooked up a thermometer, and as you can see, it reached up to 100 degrees in the basking spot, which is perfect. Finally, I put a bit of aluminum foil on top to keep the heat and humidity inside. Okay, well, the frilled dragon's home is now complete, and well, it's time to add it inside. And the next day, I got a notification on my phone saying the package was ready for pickup, so I drove out to FedEx. All right, so I just got back from FedEx, and I just picked up this box, which is probably the frilled dragon. I mean, it says live animal. Hopefully it didn't give me the wrong package. But anyways, I'm gonna take this thing inside and put it in the cage, and oh, there's some chickens right there. Bruh. I might gotta show these guys to the dinosaur. They're gonna be good friends. But before I do anything like that, let's just start by opening up this box. Oh my gosh, I can kind of see the dinosaur right now, and well, it's definitely a dinosaur. And now that I have the frilled dragon, I'm gonna find out if dinosaurs are actually good pets by doing stuff like feeding it, taking it outside, and even more. But first, let's get this guy in the enclosure. Now, this may not look like a dinosaur just yet, but that's because its thing on its neck only comes out on special occasions. But trust me, I will be showing you exactly what it looks like later in the video. Okay, well, the dinosaur is in its enclosure right now, and honestly, I'm still scared to get within a 5-foot radius of this thing. Like, I have no idea if this is as ferocious as those videos made it out to be, but I guess we're gonna find out. For now, I already know this guy is very hungry and thirsty from spending a day in that shipping container, and as you can see, his water bowl is already messed up because he was like jumping around and pooping in there like I thought he would. So to give him a drink of water, I turned my water pump on a very low setting, which made little drops of water fall above the dinosaur. Immediately, he started to stick out his tongue and take little sips of it, which is actually pretty cool to watch. Then he just started to bask in it like he was taking a shower. Dang, maybe this guy isn't as ferocious as I thought. He actually looks pretty chill right now. Now, to feed the frilled dragon, I asked the guy I bought it from which insect is the dinosaur's favorite, and he said crickets are one of the best. So, I got a bag of some pretty big crickets. Bruh, what are these guys all running around in here for? It's not like you guys gonna escape. They're just jumping around. Are you guys stupid? And literally immediately after I put a bunch of them in, the dinosaur started to go crazy, as you can see, jumping all around the enclosure to get a nice, juicy meal. And to show you just how cool it is when the frilled dragon hunts, I hired a professional nature documentary narrator to tell you what's going on. Look at this.
In this small, recreated prehistoric world, a cricket enjoys a quiet meal of moss. But nearby, the frilled dragon, a creature with roots deep in ancient history, has spotted the movement. Suddenly, the dragon's head snaps towards the cricket. In an instant, it leaps forward, jaws closing around the cricket with precision. The cricket's meal is cut short, now being completely devoured by one of nature's best hunters.
Now, as you can see, that was very cool, and the dinosaur is a very good hunter. So to rank how good of a pet this dinosaur is, I'm gonna rank a bunch of different factors. And because it was super cool watching this guy drink and eat, I'm gonna give Care a 9 out of 10. Yeah, 9 out of 10. That's a pretty good score. Good job, bro. But another important factor that goes into a pet being good is how friendly it is and whether or not it lets you handle it. Now, dogs are the perfect example of this. You know, they're super fluffy and nice, and they pretty much never bite you. Aww. But frilled dragons, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, based off the videos I've seen, they are not friendly at all. All right, this is the moment of truth. I'm gonna figure out if this guy's gonna let me hold him. And to make sure I don't get bit, I've got some hand protection, as you can see. I'm just gonna go start by trying to pet him. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're petting him, and it seems like he's chill with that. I'm just gonna be very gentle. Oh! Okay, I got very scared there for a second, but... So yeah, I was too scared to pick him up with my hand, so I just picked up the log he was sitting on. There you go, good boy, good boy. Okay, we're doing it. Okay, so we're just gonna start by putting him on the kitchen table. Let's see, stay right there. And there we go, look at him. When he's out of his cage, he's doing good. He's just sitting there. Dang, but he's actually being a good boy. And the craziest thing is you see the frill on his neck. It hasn't even come out yet. So usually they put the frill out on their neck when they're super angry, but this guy, he hasn't even put it out once. He's like super chill with me. So he's just letting me pet him. He's a good boy, bro. And since the dinosaur was doing so good just chilling inside, I decided I would try and bring him outside to let him explore the world. And I'm outside with the frilled dragon. Look at this. He's just basking in the sun. This is awesome. It's actually pretty cool. He's like blending in with the log. I'm pretty sure he does that to avoid any birds of prey. Because normally in the wild, they're like scared of birds attacking him. But right now, he's just blending in with the log. He's not even scared at all. And like I said, I was going to show the frilled dragon to the chickens. So I don't want him to get too stressed out, but I'm just gonna kind of let him see the chickens. You see them over there? Yeah, you see the chickens? Aren't they so cool? Oh, they look pretty scared. And oh, okay, they're just running away. Yeah, I think they're scared of him. Okay, I'm just gonna bring him back inside. That actually went very well, and the dinosaur didn't even get mad at me once. But to be fair, I was too scared to hold him. So because of that, I'm giving friendliness a 7 out of 10. And now for the final thing that determines how good a pet is to see the reaction of my mom. So yeah, I'm gonna show it to my mom. But real quick, I just want to let you know that only 5% of people are actually subscribed. And I know every YouTuber says this, and I said the same thing last video, but it is a real statistic. So please just subscribe if you like this video. Thank you very much. Mom, can you come in? Have you seen my new pet?
No.
Alright, so the lizard is in this giant enclosure right here. Do you see it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically right there. And, or do you know what kind of lizard it is though?
It looks like a little dinosaur.
A dinosaur, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I got it. It looks like a dinosaur. And guess how much it costs?
I don't know.
It cost $800.
No, it did not.
It cost $800.
It's not even funny.
It did. But this
That's
is the new.
crazy,
This is the new addition to the family. All right.
What's his name?
Doesn't have a name.
Oh, Mr.
Alright.
Prehistoric.
You wanna name him Mr. Prehistoric?
Prehistoric.
That's a stupid name. So what do you rate it out of 10?
You're pretty cool, Prehistoric. 10.
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
Okay, bye. Thanks. So she actually ended up liking it and gave it a 10 out of 10. That means the average score for the pet dinosaur is 8.7 out of 10. So that means this is actually a very, very good pet. I recommend it to anybody that can afford it, which is nobody, because who's gonna spend $800 on a lizard? Anyways, I know I said that the dinosaur would be showing his neck frill a lot in this video, which he hasn't yet. So to try and make him do it, I got a scary picture on my phone and showed it to him. And he didn't really care. So I tried getting another picture of a bird predator this time, which yeah, he didn't care about that either. So sorry guys, I lied. Mr. Prehistoric is not going to show his frill in this video, but that is a good thing anyways, because it means he likes me and he isn't stressed at all. So thank you everybody for watching. Today we figured out that dinosaurs are actually very good pets, which is pretty cool. Yeah, make sure you subscribe, click the video on the screen, and yeah, bye. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? You're a good boy, bro. What could go wrong? Let's just buy this at the cart. So in this video, I'm gonna build it at home, show off everything about keeping a pet cow killer, which means yes, I am going to let it crawl on my arm. If it stings me, I am going to be in so. I got out the enclosure and a bunch of desert rocks to build its home. To start, I stacked each of the rocks in this pattern that would create a canyon look in here. Now the reason I bought these types of rocks is because they look like the rocks in real canyons. But yeah, because they look so realistic, these rocks were very expensive. Yes, that's actually how much they costed. We don't talk about that. You see, cow killers live in deserts in the wild, which sort of makes sense because all of the most deadly and painful animals live in the desert. Anyways, to finish the canyon look in this enclosure, I got some of this excavator sand stuff. You see, if I add this bowl of water to this tub of the sand and, you know, pour it in there like that, then just go and mix it up with my hand. And after a minute, it turns it into this clay substrate, which I can kind of make into a nice ball of, poop. Yes, it's kind of nasty. But basically, using this clay, I'm gonna go and stick it in between each of these rocks to kind of glue them together, and we're gonna have a nice completed canyon look in here. Anyways, after putting that all over the rocks and letting it dry, it ended up looking pretty good. But the next step to finishing this desert is, of course, to put some sand in here, because, you know, deserts, they have to have sand. But before putting the sand in, first I've got these big bags of black rocks, and apparently if I scatter this around the floor before putting the sand in, it should help absorb any extra moisture, and that'll prevent any mold from growing in this desert. Next up, I got out another container and filled it with some sand and some of this soil to make the desert substrate. Basically, the reason why I'm using this as the substrate is because when I put the plants and cactuses inside, this soil is going to provide a lot of nutrients, so they're able to grow nice and tall, and we get a fully fledged desert in here. So I went and poured that on top of all of the carbon and pushed it up against the rocks to make the desert floor. But as you can see, this doesn't really look like a desert because of how much dirt I added to that substrate. So I quickly poured a thin layer of just normal sand on top so it would look like a desert once again. Alright, this is already starting to look like a good cow killer enclosure, but to make it even better, it's time to add in some plants and decorations. First, for the decorations, and that basically just means wood and rocks, because that's pretty much all deserts have, to be honest. They're pretty boring. First of all, I put some of this spider wood around the tank randomly and even used some of it to make little bridges across the canyons that the cow killer would be able to walk on. Then I got some of these longer sticks and put them on the side of the canyon to make it look like there were roots growing from it or something. Yeah, pretty cool. But I did end up getting two cool decorations, which are right here. The first of which is these little logs, which are called cholla wood. And the reason these are a cool decoration is because cholla, it's a cool word to say, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and also they're good because they have all these little holes so the cow killer can run inside and then just hide and make a home in there. So yeah, that's good. And for the second cool decoration, I got a live scorpion. I'm just kidding. It's actually not a live scorpion. Oh, it's a plastic toy scorpion, but you know, it's a desert, so I think it'll fit pretty well. I'm just gonna put it right in this empty spot there. Take a look at that. Looks pretty deserty. Now for the plants. And as you know, not many things can live in the deserts since it's so dry. So our only options are succulents and cacti, which of course are able to absorb tons of water. But I don't have any of those types of plants. I don't know how to say it plural. So I picked out a nice selection. And while I didn't get as good of a deal as that comment said, it still only costed like $20 for all these plants, which is pretty good. Anyways, to plant these desert plants, I shook off all the excess dirt and planted just the roots in the sand. And in no time, it was done. But the final step to finishing the cow killer's home is insects. And I've got two different species of insects I want to put in here. First of all, you already know I've got springtails, the extremely tiny white creepy bug things. And yeah, there's just like 1,000 of them in here. All these tiny little white things moving. Those are all springtails. But these are extra important in a desert enclosure like this because every now and then I'm gonna have to go and spray each of the plants down and water them, and the springtails will make sure to eat up any extra mold that grows because of all the moisture. So yeah, they're pretty useful. Let's just dump these guys in here. Yeah, pretty good. And second of all, I've got these things, which are mealworms. But the real reason why I'm gonna put these guys in the enclosure is because I'm kind of interested to see if the cow killer's gonna go and just sting them, to be honest. I don't really know if the cow killer eats insects like this, but I guess I'm gonna figure out with you guys once we put them in here. Well, this desert enclosure is now complete. So I cut the tape and got the container out that supposedly the bug was inside. Okay, so this is not so promising. It's just a clear plastic container with a paper towel. Well, I guess let me just carefully take the lid off and okay, please, hopefully nothing jumps out at me. I very carefully used some tweezers to move the paper towel into another container. And then I carefully moved around that paper towel to try and reveal the cow killer. Oh, I think I see it in there. Wait, do you see that? Hold on, look at this. Oh, that's the cow killer. This may not look like it, but this thing right here is one of the most painful stinging insects, or not even insects, just animals in the entire world. But I couldn't just move it straight inside of the new enclosure because first I had to build the rest of it on so it wouldn't be able to escape. Because if it did, that would be really bad. Okay, well it's right here, so I'm just gonna risk it for the biscuit and pick it up super carefully. And drop it. Okay, you're in your new home. Enjoy it. Soon enough, the bug crawled out of its paper towel and started to explore around his new home. There's this insanely viral YouTube video where a guy named Coyote Peterson lets himself get stung by a cow killer. And based off of his reaction, you can tell this insect has one of the most painful stings in the entire world. Now, normally you would want to stay away from these things, but I just found a website that will sell you one as a pet. They say this thing's called a cow killer because its sting is powerful enough to kill a literal cow. Huh, what could go wrong? But considering the cow killer spent the last week in that shipping box, it's probably pretty hungry. So I wanted to get it fed right away. And when you search it on Google, it says the cow killers like to eat nectar, larvae, and adult insects. So I think first I'm gonna feed them some of this insect jelly food, which I usually feed to my crickets. But basically it should replicate the nectar that they find in flowers in the wild. So I opened up the pack of jelly and put it right in front of the cow killer. Within about a minute, it must have picked up the scent because it crawled right up to it and just stayed there looking like it was eating it. Yo, look at the cow killer. It just put its face straight up to the jelly and is just devouring it, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, he really just sat there for 20 whole minutes eating it, and I eventually just took the jelly away from him because I didn't want him to eat too much. Anyways, I want to see if this cow killer is going to eat the other stuff that Google said it would eat. And one of the things it said it would eat is adult insects. And if you remember, I did put mealworms in here. Let me see if I can find one. Here we go. There's just a mealworm in the sand right there. But I just want to bring this right over to the cow killer and see if it reacts if I just drop it right next to it. Let's see what happens here. Now, right away, the cow killer noticed the mealworm and went straight up to it. But while it even started to crawl on top of the mealworm, it didn't really seem to care at all that it was there. In fact, it kind of just put its mouth on the sand where the insect jelly was just sitting to try and suck up any of the last sugar that was there. So yeah, I guess they don't really eat insects. Called a cow killer because they say its sting is painful enough to be able to kill a literal cow.
What?
Yeah, so basically, the reason I brought you in today is because I just want you to film me, basically letting it crawl on me, because I was just thinking, you know, like I just want to bond with it.
That sounds like a really bad idea.
So first, I'm going to start by picking up its abdomen with these tweezers. Now, don't worry, this doesn't actually hurt the bug because it has a super strong abdomen. It's just basically like a skeleton. Oops, I dropped it. But eventually, I picked it up again and put it inside of the container. Okay, you got a good shot. So basically, I'm just going to start by putting this like this. I don't want to get it mad when it crawls out. I just want to let it crawl out itself.
And this will kill a cow.
Well, yeah, that's what they say, but I don't think it actually can. All I know is it's super painful. It didn't take long until the cow killer got to the edge of the container and then stepped onto my arm. Now we just hope and pray this doesn't sting me right now. So I don't want to make any sudden movement because then it's going to know I'm bad and it's going to try to sting me. Now I had to let it stay on me for at least a minute. So in the meantime, I just tried to talk with my mom to distract me.
What is the purpose of this? You want to bond with your pet?
Yeah, because everyone bonds with their dog and stuff. I just want to bond with my cow killer. You see how its sting is just like crawling along me? It could accidentally sting me at any moment. At this point, it started to look more aggravated, and as soon as the timer hit 60 seconds, I put the container in front of it hoping it would crawl in. But it ended up crawling around it onto the side of my arm, where it eventually fell off onto the table. So I quickly scooped it up back into its container. We got it. That was actually really nerve-wracking. I don't know if I was saying a lot. I was actually like, my heart was pounding like 200 beats a second. But now I could say I've been bonded with a cow killer.
What are you gonna name it?
The cow killer.
The cow killer.
That's a cool name. Now I didn't get stung today, but I'm gonna have this pet for a while. So if you guys really want to see it, I honestly wouldn't be totally opposed to doing it. So if you want to see me get stung for a video, I'm just kidding. What I actually did was went onto Facebook Marketplace where I could buy a bunch of stuff for super cheap. Okay, so I've searched up terrarium on Facebook Marketplace and I'm not really finding anything good for under $10. I mean, seriously, look at these. This one's $40. Bro, who built this? This thing's trash. It literally just has grass and leaves. $40? That's a scam. Okay, instead I'm gonna search up jar because I might be able to find something I can use. And oh yeah, these are more in my budget. Okay, this one might work well. 3 sort of new jars. They're apparently in excellent condition, but one has a giant crack in it. I don't know if that's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I could probably make like leaf scott out of this and stuff. I don't know. Let me just go buy it. Okay, so I met up with the guy and gave him the $5 bill, you know. And of course, now I got the jars. Oh, that did not sound good. And because I had multiple jars, I got the idea to build a different biome in each one. Like, what if in this one I built a forest, this one I built a desert, and then in this one I built a lake? I mean, if I built a lake, it'd be more of an aquarium than a terrarium, but whatever. So that's what I planned on doing. And then at the end, I'd be able to compare the $10 biomes with the $1,000 ecosystem to see which was better. Okay, so I'm gonna create this first jar into a forest, and to do that I'm gonna need some basic materials like dirt, wood, rocks, and plants. The problem is though that we only have $5 to turn all of these jars into terrariums, and literally just a bag of dirt is over $10. Ooh, that's not good. But thankfully for me, dirt is actually free if we just, you know, walk outside. Oh yeah, look at this quality dirt right here. Let me just, you know, dig this up. All right, the dirt has been acquired. But before putting it in, I have to make a drainage layer in this jar first because that's just what terrariums need. But thankfully, that can be done easily again by just walking outside and picking up some rocks. All right, I put the rocks in, but now typically you'd use some sort of material like this window screen to separate the drainage layer from the substrate. But of course, window screen is definitely not in our budget, so we're gonna have to think of another alternative. So I did some searching around outside, hoping I could find something. Okay, I guess there's some plastic here. Wait, this could actually work. Has some like Chinese on it. I don't know what this says, but okay, wait, let me see if I can use this. And as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's terrarium substrate separator. I poked some holes in the plastic to allow water to pass through, and that let me put the dirt on top. And there we go, the base of the forest terrarium is finished. But obviously this is not a forest, it's just dirt. So in order to make it a forest, I needed to add in some decorations, which just meant I had to go outside again and pick up more stuff. Yeah, that's kind of what this entire forest build is. As you can see, we got all sorts of supplies, which is gonna allow me to customize my terrarium to my artistic liking. And wait, look at this plant here. The roots on this one looks like it's growing some sort of vegetable or something. Wait, is this like a radish or a green onion? Wait, does it taste like one? Oh. Oh, it does not taste like one. Anyways, I put the decorations in the build. All right, now time for the grand reveal of this forest. Let's move this down and oh yeah, look at this. Okay, maybe it's not that cool, but at least it looks pretty good for being basically free. Now, there's just one more thing to do to finish this little forest, and that's to add some life into it. Now, it'd be cool to add like a frog or something in here, but yeah, this is probably not big enough for a frog, so I'm gonna have to settle for something I find outside again. Now, to be honest, I'll just settle for like an earthworm or something. Oh, wait, I see something right there. Wait, do you see that? Oh. Wait, bro, there's a cricket. Okay, wait, this is even better than a worm. So I picked up the cricket and put him into his new home. All right, and the cricket is in there. Can you see it in there? It's kind of hard to see, but it's right there. Bruh. The forest was now complete, and to finish off the $10 builds, I still needed to make the desert and a lake, which will be a lot more interesting to build, since I won't be able to just find the materials right outside my house. But before building those, the package for my $1,000 terrarium just arrived, so I'm gonna start building that first. Okay, this is pretty heavy, but I think I got it. There we go. That is the box, you know? So let me open this up, and I swear, if this thing is not already put together, I'm gonna be very mad because I do not want to build this from scratch. Oh no, I don't think this is put together. Yeah, it's definitely not. There's just glass panes here. Okay, there goes 2 hours probably. 2 hours later. And along with the tank, I also did buy a bunch of supplies, about $395.87 worth of supplies, which are right here. But to start off the build, we basically got to get rid of all of this stuff, so, I guess the first step for building this terrarium is to put this little water filter chamber thing that I built into it. For this $1,000 build, I'm going all out, and I'm making an entire chunk of the rainforest with a working river running through it. And this will let me filter the water and allow fish to live in there. So to build this thing, I first sprayed the entire back of the glass with some silicone, which will allow me to put tree branches sticking out on it. To keep the wood in place, I used some spray foam to do some more spraying. And finally, I stuck a bunch of dirt all along the back so it looked more natural. All right, look at this thing. This thing is actually enormous. This is like as tall as me. And don't worry about this being ugly right now, because later on, I'm gonna add a ton of plants here to make this actually look good. But for now, we're gonna focus on the floor area, because right now, I'm gonna make this into a river. To make it, I first glued in a piece of foam to easily separate the land and water areas. Then I got a ton of rocks and wood to create a natural looking underwater environment, because you know, there's usually rocks and wood underwater. All right, there we go. That is done now. So let's finish that underwater area look and add some sand in, because you know, you need sand to make an underwater section. Okay, now that the floor and the water portion's done, let's get to the floor and the land portion. For this, I'm gonna be mostly using these Leica balls. Honestly, these kind of look like cocoa pebbles, but I think I learned my lesson. Now, to complete this floor area, I need to put a layer of substrate on top of it. But before doing that, I used this pump to do some plumbing and create a tube that will allow the river to actually have a working water flow. Then finally, I added the dirt on top to finish the floor area. All right, now there's just 2 more things to finish this build. 1 to add water, and 2 to add plants. And thankfully I can do that first one pretty quickly, just like this. So now I want to test if the water flow actually works to see if we can actually turn this into a river. All right, so let me plug this thing in, and this better work. I've spent like the past 2 hours doing this, and oh, okay, so it's working, but the water flow is very extreme. That's kind of messing up the sand. Okay, this is just making the water very dirty right now. Can you stop doing that? So to fix the issue, I got some tape to try and make the end of the tube more narrow. Oh, nah. Oh, nope, that is not working. Oh, no. Taping it does not work. Oh my god. Now in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been doing that right next to the power strip, but thankfully my house didn't explode. Anyways, eventually I got the water flow working and the $1,000 terrarium was starting to come together pretty nicely. But since things aren't going too well for this right now, I'm gonna take a break and just move on to the $10 terrariums. Alright, so we're moving from this beautiful $1,000 build over back to the minuscule $10 builds. And as you know, the forest build is already done, so we're moving on to the desert build now. Now for the drainage layer of this, we can do the same thing we did in the forest and just go get some rocks. But now this is where things get tricky because I can't really just go outside and get sand because I basically live in the middle of not a desert. You know, there's trees outside and stuff. So that means the only way I can get some sand is if I buy it. I don't know if there's actually gonna be any sand under $5 that I could buy. Let me just search it up anyways, and oh, that's not good. And wait, $2 for sand. Oh my gosh, it's not even lying. $3 for sand. Okay, that is actually so good. I can actually get some sand now. Well, I guess let me go to Betco. I'll be there soon. Thankfully, it was still in stock when I got there, so I bought that, and then I poured it in the jar. Now, similar to the forest terrarium that we built earlier, we're gonna need plants for this desert one. Now, ideally, we get a nice cactus in this thing. I think that'd look pretty cool. The only problem is, as you know, our budget is lacking a little bit. Okay, well, maybe there's a chance I can buy a cactus for super cheap. Cactus near me. And yeah, $1,000, $200 for a cactus. Wait, there's actually one for $1. Wait, what? Okay, wait, this is actually good. I can buy a cactus for $1. That fits in our budget. It's at this store called Michael's. I've never even heard of that, but $1, I guess I'm going to Michael's. So I went there, and they had some absolutely fantastical cacti to choose from. So I got myself this. This massive cactus was only $1. Dang, I've like literally never heard of Michael's. There was no cars in the parking lot. Guys, you need to go to Michael's. They got some fantastical deals there. All right, let's get this in here. I'm gonna dig out a little hole with my golden spoon. Don't ask why it's golden. And so I added the cactus in, and the desert build was now complete. But to fully finish the terrarium, I once again needed to add life into it. And since I wouldn't be able to buy anything with my 71-cent budget, I got the idea to put a worm in there from outside to act as a sandworm. Because, you know, I didn't really have any other options. All right, let's put the sandworm in his home, and there we go. The desert build is now finished. I hope you enjoy your new life, little boy. Okay, so I was planning on moving straight to building the lake right after this. But you remember how I got this cactus at Michael's? Or, Michelle? I don't remember what it was called, but you know how I got this cactus? Well, while I was there, I also got, pretty much all the plants we're gonna need for this $1,000 build for a pretty good price. It barely even made a dent in our budget. So I'm gonna go and put these in right now, I guess. And, oh, shoot. Oh, that is not good. While I was putting all that spray foam on the back, I was supposed to also put these little plant pots there, but I forgot, so this is gonna be a lot harder to put the plants in the bin. But thankfully, I'm a genius, and I used my hot glue gun to glue all the plant pots on the back of the wall. Then I was able to put all the plants in the pots. I even got some aquatic plants to put in the water area to fully round off everything in this $1,000 build. Now, some people may say these very obviously black pots put all around the terrarium is ugly. And, well, to those people, I say that you are probably right. This is pretty ugly. But I guess this is the downside of the $1,000 build. It's too complex to make. Well, anyways, to complete this terrarium, I needed to add life into it, which I was going to do by adding in fish. But before doing that, I want to finish the $10 terrariums. All right, the first two terrariums are done. Now we just gotta focus on this last one, which of course is gonna be the lake. Now I bet some of you have probably been wondering, how on earth am I gonna turn this into a lake? Well, it's pretty simple actually. Let me show you how we're gonna do it. We're just gonna take this, we're gonna take it out to my car, buckle it in, and drive. Now you see, I figured the best way to make a lake terrarium is to just go to an actual lake and scoop up the sand and water. That way I wouldn't have to worry about our lack of money. Alright, I've made it. I mean, it's not a lake, it's a river, but no, it's gonna have to do. And this is very embarrassing. I really hope someone doesn't see me trying to pick up this water and put it in my jar. Okay, I have surveyed around me. No one's near me. I have time to get this water, baby. Give me this water. So I collected all the water I needed and also scooped up some of the dirt so I could bring it home. So I added everything in and the lake ended up looking like this. Yeah, not very appealing. Well, there wasn't much I could do. So anyways, I needed to add life into it. And this was actually gonna be pretty easy because a few videos back, I built a lake ecosystem on my desk. And in that video, I put some albino mystery snails into it. And just recently, they had babies. So I'm just gonna yoink this guy and put him into his new home. Do you even see it in there? It's there, I think. Wait, no, I think it's there. I can't even tell where it is. I think it might be dead. The $10 builds were all completely finished, but don't leave yet, as now I'm adding the most coolest, epicest, super cool life into the $1,000 build. Guppies. Okay, to you, maybe they're not the coolest fish ever, but to me, I mean, they look pretty cool. They got spots and fins and, okay, you know, let's just add them in. So I put some of this API quick start bacteria in, so it would be safe to add the fish whilst the cycling process took place. And immediately, you could tell they absolutely loved their new home. Well, I can't say that they loved it for sure, but I mean, they were swimming around and stuff, so they probably did. I even turned on the river flow to see how they would react. Most of them seemed pretty annoyed, but one of them kept playing around in it and flinging himself around the river. The $1,000 terrarium and $10 terrariums are now all finished. Are the $10 terrariums better, or is the $1,000 terrarium better? And well, the answer is pretty obvious. The $1,000 terrarium is better. But you do gotta remember, this is literally $1,000. Like, literally, you could replace this with a used car, or, okay, maybe not a car. Ants are known for their insane ability to work together to accomplish impossible tasks. So I was wondering, what would happen if I put my 1,000 ant colony up against natural disasters? Would they actually be able to stop and survive them by working together? Well, that's exactly why I gathered up 1,000 ants. And I have the 5 coolest natural disasters planned, starting with the most iconic, an earthquake. Yup, ants, I went out and bought a realistic earthquake simulating platform that if I go and press this button, whatever on top starts to shake so much, which recreates a real earthquake. Oh, dang. But what I'll actually be putting on here is this 2D ant nest and filling it up with the 1,000 ants, of course. Basically, these ants will dig out tunnels along the glass like my last ant video, but throughout that process, the earthquake machine will lightly go off to gently collapse the tunnels while the ants are digging. That way, I can show you how ants evolve to survive earthquakes in the wild, and if they pass, they move on to the more and more interesting disasters. Now, as you could probably imagine, the ants wasted no time to get to work. Ants are so tiny, and while a single ant would basically be able to make no progress whatsoever, when you have a 1,000 ants, things are done at an insanely rapid pace, as workers started picking up grains of sand along the glass so each tunnel could be formed. It's so cool to see time-lapse footage of these tunnels being made, because they literally dug out this entire amount of sand in only like 6 hours. So I'm wondering what's gonna happen to these tunnels when I turn on this earthquake machine. Now, I started by turning it on the least powerful setting. Okay, it's shaking super slowly. Now, it's my goal to make sure not a single ant is harmed in this video. I just want to show you how insanely smart they are and how they will overcome all these disasters in the wild. But even this very light shaking was definitely felt amongst the colony. The workers along the top area immediately knew something was off, and they started frantically running around, as you can see. And when we take a look down under the nest where all the tunnels are, you could see those ants were acting similarly. Ants know during earthquakes, their tunnels have the chance to collapse, so all of them were being extremely careful. Very interestingly enough, in this room here, many of the ants were gathering up on the walls of the room to add an extra layer of support so it wouldn't collapse. But of course, when an earthquake happens in the wild, a part of the nest is bound to collapse, so it wasn't long until this happened. A bit of the sand here started to fall, completely blocking off this tunnel. I immediately turned off the machine to make sure the ants wouldn't be too stressed out while they had to commence a rescue mission. Because as you can see, while most of the ants were able to squeeze out, like this guy here, at least one ant was partially trapped in this collapsed tunnel. But amazingly, it looked as though one of the ants was already picking up some of the sand from the collapsed portion to clear it out. And yeah, literally so quickly, the ants excavated the entire collapsed tunnel, enough to where it was a perfectly functional area to walk through again. And funnily enough, some of the ants even started to walk in and slowly dig out the area where the sand had just collapsed from to make a new tunnel there. Wow, the ants just completed this natural disaster. They are so smart. But the natural disasters are designed to get more interesting as the video goes on. So next up, we got a sandstorm. Yes, ants, you heard that right, and this will be taking place in the separate desert enclosure. Yes, we need to have a separate tank, so that way I can make the sand blow around like crazy to replicate a real sandstorm. And along with this blow dryer, I've also got all these fans that clamp to the walls, and I can just set up to constantly blow the ants back. For the ants to be able to pass this disaster, they're gonna have to do something like grab onto each other's bodies or something to be able to push past this intense wind. And if they can make it to this canyon, climb up it, and make it to the Terra green leaf bowl, then they're gonna get a ton of seeds, sticks, which is their favorite food.
All right, let me just hook up this tubing like so, and the ants should start coming. Let's go.
Yup, and this tubing is set up so once an ant enters the disaster, they can't get out. That way, we'll progressively get to see more and more teamwork as time goes on. Now, immediately, you could see these first ants just kind of thought this was a normal desert as they were walking through it, but quickly, I brought out my mini sandstorm fan, and I started to blow. Immediately, the ants started to feel the wind pressure pushing them back, and were suddenly not able to walk forward. Some even lost their grip and got pushed back a bit. And as more ants entered the desert, you could tell the sandstorm was keeping them all stuck to the left side of this enclosure.
Yo, this little mini fan is fire for replicating a sandstorm. But no, this is where it gets interesting, because now that they know a sandstorm is brewing, how are they going to figure out how to get to these seeds? Well, let's see.
While most ants kept trying to just walk forward and getting blown back, interestingly enough, many of the ants were gathering up in this back area here near the sticks. And many of them were actually starting to climb onto the sticks. You see, the fan doesn't really blow ants back if they're walking on sticks, since there's just so much of a better grip on there. But yeah, the second they climb off and stand on the sand again, they'll get blown back, as you can see. But the ants were starting to learn that they needed to stay on the sticks. So many started to gather up and march towards the right side where all the seeds were located. In fact, this ant was making it dangerously close to the seeds using the stick method. And well, he was able to make it to the little rock canyon and almost was there to the seeds.
Oh my gosh, this ant climbing right now is a beast. I am blowing this fan max speed on him, and he is just stuck to this rock.
And as I let my guard down for literally 1 second, this dude made a dash for the seeds, literally running straight towards it, and well, he made it in. And he looked so happy to have gotten those seeds. He was just dancing around in there.
Yo, this ant is crazy. I didn't even have time to blow him back when he got up into this area.
Since the ants passed a disaster, I gathered them all up and put them back into the nest. And I gave them the food prize, which of course they started to take down into the nest over the next 5 minutes.
But ants, I'm not gonna lie, this natural disaster was kind of easy to pass. If we really want to learn about how ants survive, well, we gotta go to our third natural disaster, a flood.
Yup, and as you can see, I've built another custom tank where the flood is going to be getting simulated. I know there's no water yet, but you'll see how quickly that changes. For now, all you gotta know is if the ants make it all the way to this leaf ball, they'll once again get rewarded with tons more seeds.
These ants have no idea what's about to hit them. Let's connect this tubing so these guys can start walking in.
Quickly, the ants started to make their way in. But before the ants had any time at all to take in their surroundings, I had to activate the flood.
So to make the flood happen, I gotta go down here to this little bucket, plug it in, and then out the end of this tube. Oh yeah, water. Oh shoot, water's coming out. Okay, I just gotta carefully, move that over there. Oh, okay. There we go.
Similar to real life, floods will block off paths for ants while they're trying to travel, so this is exactly what that recreates. And the ants are gonna have to find a way to pass these gaps using the objects I've provided for them. As you can tell, the ants in here immediately were a little confused on what to do. Many were gathering up near the water edge, inspecting what the heck just happened. Some even fell into the water, but don't worry, any ant that falls in, I'll be rescuing and bringing back to the start so no ants get hurt. But also, many of the ants were actually sort of gathering around the objects I had placed in. And as I left my camera recording, I was extremely amazed by what I saw happen. Out of nowhere, this feather started to slightly move, and as I kept watching, it slowly started nudging around more and more. There must have been an ant underneath, and this ant was genuinely moving the feather closer and closer to the water until literally like magic, it was moved almost entirely in, and an ant crawled out right from underneath as soon as that happened. Dang, this guy must have been helping move it.
Yo, these ants are absolutely insane. I don't know what ant just moved this feather into the water, but dang, I mean, let's just see what they do.
It took a couple minutes, but eventually a couple more of the workers started to step onto the feather and started to walk across it to, of course, make it to our second platform. Now, unfortunately, the ants got to do the same exact thing here. Sorry, guys, I know you already did it once, but to my surprise, the ants literally wasted no time to start gathering around these feathers and directly in the area under them. And while it took a couple hours, eventually my camera caught this same exact thing happening. The feather slowly inched towards the water until, well, it had made a bridge across almost.
Let's go, ants. Now, I did help them a little bit by just moving the feather up onto this platform, but for the most part, they actually were moving those.
And yep, it didn't take long till our first worker stepped onto the final platform and climbed up into the leaf dish to claim their seeds.
All right, well done, little ant, and here is your guys' reward. Well, guys, if you want even better food, you're gonna have to complete this next natural disaster, which is a blizzard. And guys, this is gonna be happening in your nest. Be prepared. blizzard.
Yup, this blizzard will be taking place inside of the ant nest, so we could study how ants handle the cold in the wild.
Now, obviously, I can't just go and dump a ton of snow on them. That would totally just freeze them all. Instead, I've actually got some ice cubes, which I'm gonna go and just plop on this which, as you can see, this makes a nice little makeshift snow that on my laser thermometer is approximately -Celsius degrees.
I started by sprinkling a super tiny amount of this ice on the ant nest to see how they'd initially react, and interestingly, well, not even a single ant cared at all. Yeah, this ice just melted completely into the sand. Since the ants weren't affected by that, I decided to up the amount of ice I put in, which should give us a reaction to how ants handle the cold in the wild. And this time, the ants were actually a bit more interested in the ice, with some of them even crawling on top of them. But the most fascinating thing I had noticed was how much the ants had started to slow down their movement since the start.
Thankfully, all the ants are doing just fine still, but if you look very closely, these ants, for the most part, have slowed down so much. I mean, look at how slowly some of them are moving.
Yup, this is one of ants' special abilities, because in the winter, when it starts to snow and the temperature drops drastically, the ants are basically biologically built to start moving slower. That way, they can conserve as much energy as possible and go hide deeper underground.
So yeah, in the wild, they would dig even deeper and all the ants would relocate to under the nest. I don't want to put any ants at risk, so I'm going to very carefully take out all the pieces of ice so this place will warm back up to the proper temperature.
And once the tank was warmed back up, I'd say the ants are now ready for their final natural disaster, which this time is a zombie apocalypse.
And I'm not going to lie, this is probably going to be the most interesting to watch because I've got 3 different types of insects that, in a way, is going to represent a zombie apocalypse.
Now, our first insect prey is, well, zombie grasshoppers. Yes, these are grasshoppers that Petco sells that are literally like half decomposing and meant for feeding animals. And I'll be bringing them back to life and moving it in front of the ants to see what they do.
And to make the ants swarm this even more, I'm gonna dip some of it in this brown sugar water. And yeah, this is gonna make it super tasty. Without further ado, let's get this in here.
Now, immediately after dipping this in the nest, I started to do a really good, accurate job of moving this around to act like it was alive. And I think the ants were falling for it because you can see they quickly started to climb all over it. And if you also look closely, the ants were actually grabbing onto this thing with their insanely strong mandibles, and they were injecting their venomous stingers into it. Which is kind of unnecessary. This thing is already long gone, but I guess I'm just doing such a good job moving it around that they think it's actually a real zombie grasshopper.
Okay, you guys are doing a good job attacking this. I'm just gonna leave that in there for you while I get this second insect ready.
And yeah, they start to absolutely devour this grasshopper. But anyways, our second insect food is this. They're called wax worms, and they're a staple food for ants because of how squishy they are.
But yeah, they just look so weird. So that's why I'm putting them in the zombie apocalypse section of the video. Let's go ahead and add these guys in.
I decided to put this first wax worm on top of where all the ants were still located around that grasshopper. And well, the ants almost instantly recognized the prey, and amazingly, they knew exactly what to do. And they took this dude straight down into the tunnel system where it wouldn't even stand a chance to fight back.
Oh my gosh, that was like 3 seconds. And now this worm is literally nowhere to be seen. It's probably in the tunnel system. Dang, that's actually kind of impressive, ants.
So I dropped the other 2 wax worms inside, and once again, one of them instantly got pulled down into the tunnel system to get eaten, and this one started to get swarmed. After the ants had a good grasp of it, they literally brought it over to these hills in the back, which eventually the worm was then brought down one of the holes on that hill. It's so cool, because if you guys didn't even realize, the ants have turned these hills at the back into an extra place for more tunnels on the back, and we can literally see the worm down under these tunnels as the ants get their protein from eating it.
Wow, amazing job, ants. But our final zombie apocalypse food is flightless fruit flies. But I'm gonna be dumping so many on the ants, so it's like a proper zombie apocalypse movie with how many zombies there are, even though, yeah, these aren't zombies.
Yeah, these are flightless fruit flies, and if you didn't already know what they are, well, they're flies that can't fly. It's always so funny to me to say this in videos, because seriously, like, how are you a fly that can't fly? Come on, bro.
Okay, anyways, I got about 100 of these flies, as you can see. So let's dump this zombie apocalypse on these ants. Oh yeah.
Now, as you can probably imagine, dumping this much prey on the ants activates their predator instincts a lot. Because instantly, so many of the ants started to become way more frantic. They started to run around like crazy to try and catch these little flies. Now, I mean, it's pretty obvious the ants aren't going to struggle with eating these flies because they're literally so much smaller. And quickly, I started to notice lots of the ants with these little flies in their mandibles. Yeah, I bet these are tasty.
Well, ants, you've literally survived floods, earthquakes, and so much more. So I'm gonna move these guys back.
Started to add in the ocean salt water. And by the time it was filled up, the salt level was 0.02, which is perfect for bloodworms. All right, all the right water parameters have been met in here, so the bloodworms are good to go in. But because I put salt water in here, it does mean the $200 on freshwater plants I spent is gonna go down the drain. Yeah, these are all about to die. Since they were all gonna die, I wanted to replace the red theme in here. So I got this heatless red lamp. As you can see, it makes the water have this red tint to it, which is cool because you gotta have the water at least look a little bit like blood when putting bloodworms inside. Now, I also need to get snails inside of here so they can eat any algae that grows. Now, luckily for me, I actually have this tank just set up with like 30 just snails in here, and they're called nerite snails, and they're able to survive in salt water. So that's why I'm gonna choose these guys. So I got a few of those and put them inside the bloodworm tank. Once they got used to the water, a few of them came out their shells and started to move about the glass. Now, I think these guys should be safe from bloodworms because of their shells, but I'm not gonna give the 100% guarantee. So sorry guys if you get eaten by the bloodworms. Now for the final touch of this tank. And what I did is I actually went and found this cool picture of a beware of the dog sign, and I went and asked AI to change it to a beware of the worm sign. Oh my gosh, look at what it generated. That is absolutely perfect. Wait, let me go print this out at the store real quick. So I printed it, attached it to a piece of cardboard to make it a sign, and there we go, a beware of worm sign. I then even went and spiced up the enclosure a little bit by splattering some red paint along the sides to make it look like blood splatters. And there we go, 100% complete bloodworm enclosure. And I guess there's only one thing to do. Let's get these bloodworms inside. Now, I'll just be starting with one, and then I'll add all the rest as I test more and more food. But yeah, let's just put this guy inside. Be free, boy. And the worm kind of just sank down to the bottom and started moving around randomly. And yeah, well, this is kind of all bloodworms do. They just wiggle about, and occasionally they'll burrow under the sand, which is where they spend most of their lives. And as you can see, it didn't take this guy long until he started to do just that. But I guess he got bored of the digging because eventually he just came out and started to wiggle about again above the sand. Wait, before this guy tries to burrow under the sand again, let's get to feeding him some food to see which bloodworms like the most. And we're gonna be starting with just some little fish pellets. I'm not too sure if they're gonna eat this, but it's worth a shot. Let's put them inside. But there was a slight problem because as you can see, the fish food was floating, and I feel like the bloodworm isn't just gonna swim up to it. So instead, I picked it up with some tweezers and moved it towards the worm. And as you can see, when I moved it towards him, he actually went and flashed his fangs at me for the first time. I thought this surely meant he was hungry, so I started to wave the food around in front of his mouth a bunch, and yeah, nothing. He didn't eat it. So hey, fish food, I'm gonna give a 0 out of 10. He didn't even want anything to do with that. But next up, out of all of these, I think I'm gonna do some salmon. Now, this stuff is so smelly and so oily, I think he just has to eat it, right? Now, I actually went and added in 2 more bloodworms to the tank, so there was a higher chance of one of them eating it. Then I did the same thing. I just wiggled the salmon around in front of their mouths until they ate it. But just like the fish pellets, for some reason, these worms were not wanting anything to do with it. Now, I actually think bloodworms need to have their mouth part extended and their fangs showing in order for them to eat food. And right now, their mouths are retracted because I think they're stressed. So what I did was I actually went and put all of the 12 bloodworms in the aquarium and just kind of let them do their thing. My thinking was if I left them alone for a few hours in the tank, they'd start to get used to it and then they would eat. After a while, I went and took one of the bloodworms out and put him on land. I waited a little bit for him to shoot his mouth out, and when he did, I grabbed it with tweezers. Now you can really get a good look at the fangs, and what makes these fangs so cool is they're actually made of copper. Yeah, like the metal you find underground, and they're the only animal in the world with copper teeth. Anyways, with the bloodworm, I brought it up to the 3rd food source, which is of course beef, and after kind of like shoving his face in it, he instantly bit down with all 4 of his fangs and started to devour this piece of meat and just suck all the juices out. Wow, it took a long time for me to get a bloodworm to eat a piece of meat, but dang, that is so cool when they do grab on, because look, I'm shaking it, like literally it doesn't want to come off. It's like, I am eating this, do not take it away. So I think I'm gonna go try that same thing with the last food source, which is a shrimp. And once one of the other worms shot out their mouth, I once again grabbed it and this time put the shrimp in front of it. He also immediately grabbed onto it, and now these 2 bloodworms were having the time of their lives eating up the food. After like an hour, I went and removed the food from them, him, which was pretty hard. I had to like kind of shake him off. But that was only the first animal video. And as the movie goes on, the videos get cooler and cooler, with the second video being me flipping 100 rocks in an exotic rainforest to see what crazy animals I could find. And trust me, it was insane. Outside in rainforests, there's tons of random objects like this rock, which when you flip them, you'll find life you would have never known existed. This first one just had a bunch of random insects, but in this video, I'll be flipping 100 different rocks. I came across the next object, which when I tried to flip it, well, it kind of broke apart in my hands. And this happened because if you take a closer look on here, there's tons of these little white bugs crawling all over it. These are termites, which you probably already know eat wood like this. They'll literally just set up their entire colonies inside of these dead logs and just eat them from the inside out. Now, under object number 10, I found the coolest thing so far.
Oh shoot, what is that?
You see, on the bottom side of the log, I saw this little tail thing poking out from under the bark. At first, I thought it was some sort of worm, but if you look closely, you can see it has a bunch of tiny little scales on it, so it can't be a worm. So there was only one thing to do: get out the backpack. You see, in the backpack, I've packed tons of items to be able to interact with the wildlife out here. And the first item we're taking out is these tweezers. Using the tweezers, I started to peel back some of the bark on the log until I eventually revealed the animal. It really looked so much like a worm, but you can tell by how it was slithering around that it was actually a snake. These are called Brahmini blind snakes, and they're the smallest species in the whole world. Basically, this species spends their whole life underground just like worms do. And a fun fact about them is they're all female. Basically, they have the ability to clone their genes into an egg, and that's how more snakes are born. So if you ever see one of these in the wild, just know it has the same exact genes as this one does. It's pretty crazy. Now, by this point, I reached my first little water section of the trail, which was absolutely beautiful.
Well, dang, I don't really know if you can hear me, but it's a pretty nice area as you can see. But basically, I just want to see if I can see something under the water with the GoPro.
Now, obviously, GoPros are waterproof, which lets me do this. And at first, it was kind of just a cloudy mess, but then this fish came out of nowhere. Knowing that there was at least one fish down here, I put the camera back under and figured out that there was a whole school of them. However, since the water was so cloudy, I couldn't really tell the species, so I walked down alongside the river for a little bit until it got a bit clearer, and then I stuck my GoPro underneath again. This time, there was even more of those same fish, and now I could clearly see that these were mountain mullets, which are a species native to these Puerto Rican rainforests. You see, this species is really cool because they actually are born in oceans. And once they're born, they swim up the rivers into Puerto Rico to get to these remote rainforest streams. Then, when it's time to lay eggs, they swim back to the ocean and repeat the process. It's very cool. Also, by the way, right next to these fish were a ton of these little aquatic snails, which are super important for the environment because they eat up all the algae. Anyways, a bit later, I came across this rock with a little lizard sitting on top. When I got close, it of course ran away, but I figured this was a good omen, so I flipped it, and underneath there was nothing. But since that lizard was sitting on top of the rock, I figured that underneath of it could actually be its home. So I had an idea, and I got out the backpack, and inside I took out this little container of super worms. Then I basically put a bunch of them onto my hand and just put them under the rock in case the lizard wanted to eat some of them. Now, I was just gonna leave them and walk away, but then I noticed that that same exact lizard that was sitting on top of the rock had actually already ran over and ate one of the worms. And yeah, he was enjoying it a ton. You're welcome, buddy. There's more where that came from. And speaking of lizards eating stuff, nearby I also went and flipped this rock that had nothing underneath, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed another lizard. And this guy instantly went on the run and started parkouring across the rocks to get away from me. But eventually, I did get a closer look and realized this was a green anole lizard, and it looked like there was something actually massive in its mouth. And the thing sticking out of its mouth kind of looked like the belly of another lizard, which would make sense because these green anole lizards are cannibalistic killers. And when they're hungry, they'll just straight up eat their friends. Yeah, talk about fake friends, am I right? Anyways, a bit later, I flipped this rock here, and underneath, I found my first ant colony. You see, ant colonies are a bit rarer in rainforests like this, which is why I didn't see any up to this point, so it was a kind of cool find. And then the rock I flipped right after also had another ant colony of the same exact species. Now, I'm pretty sure this species is called big-headed ants, which I can tell because as you can see, some of the workers have massive heads that are like 3 times the size of normal workers. This happens because at birth, the normal worker ants find the biggest and strongest pupa and spray a special pheromone on them. Then as the pupa grow older and older, they just grow up with massive heads and help move around some of the larger stuff that the small workers can't. In this case, the big-headed workers were helping move the eggs back underground since I moved their rock. Sorry guys, let me put that back. Now by this point, I was starting to get deeper into the rainforest, so we should start to expect the animals to get cooler and cooler. And that was actually shown because the very next thing I flipped had a proper snake behind it. But as you can see, it was a little bit camera shy because it instantly slithered moved into the bushes before I could get a good look. So I got out the backpack, and inside I packed this snake hook. Basically, people use these snake hooks to pick up deadly venomous snakes so they don't get bit. And obviously I didn't want to get bit, so using the hook, I started to dig around in the grass it slithered into and tried to look for it. But unfortunately, the hook just ended up breaking. Bruh, it broke. Oh my gosh. But this was still a good sign for cool rare animals, and trust me, we'll be finding more snakes very soon. Now, the next rock I flipped had this weird little fuzzy worm under it. Now, even after searching online, I couldn't really figure out what this is. I thought it could be like a moth cocoon, but I'm pretty sure those only grow on trees, so comment if you know what this is. But behind that crawled out this little bug, which, oh, I have experience with these guys a lot. These are called isopods, and they're sometimes called roly-polies because they roll up into a ball when threatened. But I love these guys because I always put them in the terrariums I build at home because they eat all the dead matter and keep everything clean. So yeah, thanks for existing, guys. You're awesome. I kept on venturing through the rainforest and eventually came across this fence with a few bricks laid on the floor under it. It looked like the perfect spot for animals to be hiding under, and I was right, because under that first brick was this massive beetle. And after getting a closer look, I could tell this was some sort of rhinoceros beetle, which are called rhinoceros beetles because the males grow these massive horns on their head, which they use to fight each other with. But this is a female, which is why it doesn't have a horn. In fact, if you remember that massive beetle larva from earlier, I think that actually turns into one of these. So yeah, that's pretty cool that we got to find one of these. Under the next brick was this little centipede bug, and under the third brick was this little slug. I'm not sure what species this is, but I left my phone pointing at it for a couple minutes and got this cool time-lapse footage of it slugging around. Now, as I kept on venturing, I found a cool bug under this rock. At first, I know you can't really see anything, but if I zoom in and highlight this spot here, there's actually a cave cricket right here, which is just super camouflaged. But these guys are cool because they basically have the ability to teleport when they sense danger. Yeah, they really just move so fast that it looks like teleportation. That's pretty crazy. But this next rock I flipped had something I've never seen before. Of course, right there, you can tell that there was a little worm under the dirt, but above and to the left of it was this weird little white thing. I thought at first it could be like a termite or something, but after getting a closer look, I realized it resembled the shape of a worm egg sac. For some reason, I just never thought that worms came out of eggs. But yeah, apparently this is what it looks like when they're born. They just gotta rip their way out of an egg. Dang, that's cool. Now, by this point on the trail, I had gotten to this little section of paved road, and while I was walking on it, I ended up coming across this.
Oh shoot, wait, look at this. Oh shoot, it's a snake. Look at that.
But if you're wondering why it's not moving and blurred, well, that's because it was actually run over by a car here. Unfortunately, accidents like this are bound to happen on roads, but this is still a good sign for finding more cool animals like this. And thankfully, that's exactly what I found as I made it back to the trail. You see, the first rock I flipped, I saw a little burrow underneath, but I didn't even realize that there was something sitting on the rock I was grabbing.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I did not see that. Hold on, there's a hairy spider camouflaged on this rock right now.
This is actually a Puerto Rican tarantula, and they're extremely rare to just find out in the open in a day like this. Yeah, they usually spend their entire days underground in some sort of burrow. For this tarantula, I had to get out the backpack, and from inside, I once again pulled out this container of super worms. Then, using some tweezers, I basically just started to wave around the worms in front of the tarantula's face to see if he'd eat them. And yeah, it didn't really seem like he was liking it too much, because he got really defensive and ran into his burrow. He even started to run towards me, and since these guys are venomous, I did not want to make him any more angry, and I put his home back on top.
Sorry, buddy. I'll leave you alone now.
Anyways, I kept flipping random objects as I continued down the trail and wasn't finding many animals for a while. But I did find some pretty random stuff, like just a whole fruit under this leaf, which was like kind of mushy and moldy, so I didn't try and eat it. And also, while walking, I found this weird bone thing on the side of the trail. I'm not 100% sure what this bone belongs to, but I do know Puerto Rico used to have some like wild pigs running around back in the day, which I guess this would make sense if this was a pig bone, but let me know in the comments if you're a bone expert. I'm not really. Now, under Object 92, there was this little millipede, but also right next to it was this weird black bug I've never seen before. But I figured out it's called a rove beetle, and what makes them so cool are these spikes on their back. You see, when they dig under the dirt a bit, they poke out those spikes on their back to mimic little claws or pinchers poking out of the dirt, which will scare away predators. Also, apparently they have wings they can just unfold like a robot and let them fly away. I have no idea how nature evolved to do this. Now, by this point, I was starting to get worried because it was starting to get late, and I knew there were still bigger tarantulas and scorpions to be found out here. And yeah, the next few rocks I flipped also had nothing, but that was until object number 96 when I found this. It was another tarantula, and this one is actually a Puerto Rican pink-toed tarantula, which is a slightly different species.
Okay, now this is cool. It's bigger than that first tarantula we just found. And since this guy's a bit bigger, I think I actually have something in the backpack for it. From inside, I pulled out this stick, which actually lets me attach my GoPro camera to it. Basically, I want to use this stick to get the GoPro super close to the tarantula without having to worry about getting bit, and that's exactly what I did, because I went and gently nudged the leg of the tarantula with the GoPro, and it actually woke up. Then I bumped it again, and this time it ran around to the other side of the log. Finally, I just waved it around a bit more in front of him, and he wasn't really doing anything. To be honest, I don't really know what I Venus flytrap, what would happen? Would the trap close on top of the spider and eat it whole? Or would the black widow be able to use its venom to squeeze its way out? Well, I'm gonna be testing just that, along with tons of other insect types to see how strong Venus flytraps really are. Now, to get a Venus flytrap, you gotta, of course, buy one online, and so I found this website. There was two different options of stuff to buy, a cheap $10 Venus flytrap bundle and an expensive $100 bundle. Oh, this is actually perfect. I think I'm gonna buy both of these trap bundles. Then I'll be able to test the cheap and expensive traps to see which will be more effective at catching insects. But hey, I guess let me just check them out. And thankfully, only a couple days later, I got the traps delivered in the mail. After taking them out, I separated them into cheap and expensive. You can see the cheap Venus flytraps actually gave me quite a lot for just $10. And the traps themselves did look pretty healthy, big, and had that signature green and red color. Nice. However, over on the expensive side, you can see these are a bit different. They're not even packaged at all, and they look way more natural with moss all around the dirt. However, the main difference in these ones is that they're basically fully red. Like, they literally look like an apple. I've never seen Venus flytraps like that. But other than that, these traps mostly look the same, and hopefully at least one of them will be able to successfully trap a black widow. But before we test the black widow, we also got some other insects to test, starting with a fly. And thankfully, I'm a weird bug guy, so I just got a container of a bunch of flies, which might actually mostly be dead, but I think some are alive in there. First of all, let's get the plants in their testing chambers, and we'll be testing the strength of the cheap $10 traps first. Without wasting any time, I just put in a single fly and put 30 minutes on the clock. And if it gets caught before the timer's up, I'll add in some more flies. But instantly, as you can see, the fly started to climb along the glass to try and escape. Thankfully though, I've sealed this enclosure shut, and once the fly realized that, he ended up going back down to the floor. Now this is where things get interesting, because the fly landed on one of the pots with all of the Venus flytrap plants. What makes Venus flytraps so effective is actually their nectar. Just like normal flowers, these traps also produce nectar around this little green lip part of the plant. And basically what it's designed to do is lure hungry insects in, and while they're eating the plant, of course, it shuts. But I guess because these plants are so cheap, they didn't have very much of that nectar, because after standing around for like a minute, the fly just flew away without even stepping in any of the jaws. And from there on out, the fly basically drained the 30-minute timer down all the way to 3 minutes by just standing on the glass. However, eventually he decided to explore near the cheap Venus flytraps once again. And this time he got a little bit too close, because he stepped onto one of the traps and it could literally close on him right now. But the trap took a second too long, and the fly was able to fly out once it sensed the movement. You see, Venus flytraps have a very interesting system for how they detect prey and activate their jaws, which I'll go more in depth with when the trap actually traps an insect. For now, the fly just sort of walked around on the dirt for the rest of the timer, and well, the cheap trap was a fail. Thankfully, over on the right, we got the expensive one though, worth 10 times more, and this should have a much better result. So I put in a new fly, and let's get the timer started to see how quickly this guy gets caught. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this fly was a bit crazier than that first one, because for the first 3 minutes, he literally just flew around the entire enclosure like he was insane, just hitting all the glass trying to escape. But after he tired himself out, it was time for the Venus flytraps to do their thing. Instantly, you can tell the fly was way more drawn to the traps, as these expensive ones have a much stronger, more smelly nectar. And that was proven because right after, the fly walked in one of the traps. But quickly, it walked out right as the trap closed. Yeah, you can see in this instant replay, the trap may have missed the fly, but comparing the cheap and expensive traps, the expensive one closes way faster. And only a minute later, the fly was still chilling near the traps, and this time the nectar caught him off guard, because he walked onto the trap and put his face straight up to the lip of the plant where it was. And well, yeah, the video is paused right now, but you could probably tell what's about to happen. Just like that, the trap got a perfect close on the fly. You see, every single Venus flytrap has these super tiny trigger hairs inside of the jaws, and when a bug or something touches more than 2 of them, the trap starts to close. And these expensive ones are able to close so quickly that they catch most of prey that steps inside. You can see slight bits of movement inside over the next 20 minutes, but over the next few days, the trap is going to release a type of acid on the fly to digest it down and grow even stronger. Well, it only took 5 minutes for that to trap the fly, and the cheap one didn't catch any. So the expensive one definitely takes home the win, and I think I'm gonna have to rate him a 3 out of 10 for how entertaining it was to watch. And I just say that because the next 2 insects should be way more interesting, especially the black widow. I have no idea what's gonna happen with that. Anyways, second up though, we got crickets
to test. Thankfully, crickets can't fly or climb glass, so they should be way easier to catch. And after letting one loose in the cheap enclosure, I put 30 minutes on the clock. Let's see what happens. Now, for the first little while, the cricket spent most of its time just walking on the dirt along the side of the glass to, of course, try and find an escape. Because let's be real, every cricket that sees me on this channel knows it's about to get eaten. He did not want to be in here. But after 5 minutes, he made his first approach to the traps. And one thing I should probably say is that the crickets are way more attracted to nectar, as it's a primary part in their diet. And that was shown because soon after, the cricket started to climb on the outside of the jaws of this trap. And right after that, I actually realized the cricket had stepped inside one of the traps, and it sort of looked like it was drinking nectar. But hello, Venus flytrap, there's a cricket standing inside of you right now. Are you gonna close? Yeah, the cricket really just stood there for 30 seconds, and when it was finished drinking the nectar, it started to walk out, and then finally the trap closed. Good job, bro. You're only a minute late at closing. I guess the cricket must have just not hit a trigger hair inside until the very end, which is why that happened. Anyways, nothing really new happened up until 15 minutes left on the clock, when I decided I wanted to add in 3 more crickets to make this more interesting. And while these guys all ran around the enclosure, I closely watched them to see if any would step inside any of the traps. And at 5 minutes left, this happened. You see, this cricket started to walk up the stem of this trap. Then he walked inside, realized it was a dead end, and tried to turn around. But it was too late because the trap closed on him, leaving him half stuck inside. So I literally just got some time-lapse footage of this guy to see if he'd be able to escape. And actually, while I was recording that, another cricket below also stepped into one of the traps. And he also got half of his body stuck inside. Thankfully, this cricket was able to use some of the stuff around him to pry himself out of the trap. However, I don't know if this guy will be able to do the same, since he's in the air and has nothing to grab onto. So I guess I'll just leave you here. Sorry, boy. Good luck. But anyways, that concludes the timer, and I would call this a half success for the cheap plants this time. But oh boy, am I excited to do this with the expensive traps. I didn't want to waste any time, so I put in 1 cricket. And this time, the cricket instantly walked towards the traps, like within a couple seconds. And he started to just play with his life, because he would just be walking through the plants like this, narrowly escaping the insane speed of these expensive Venus flytraps. Now, only a few minutes later, the cricket once again walked into a Venus flytrap. This time, he managed to dodge all the trigger hairs, and he put his mouth up to the lip of the plant to drink some nectar. But yeah, the second he started moving again, he wasn't so lucky, because the trap got an absolutely perfect close on him. And well, it only took 7 minutes for the expensive traps to fully capture a cricket. So once again, I'm gonna have to give the win to expensive. And I think I'm gonna rate that a 6 out of 10 for entertainment, because way more traps closed, which was fun to watch. But you already know what time it is. It is a Black Widow o'clock. Yeah, it's time to test the Black Widows now. Now, I've never actually just seen a Black Widow walking around where I live. I don't know why. I guess they just don't have them here in my state. So the only way to get one was to get out the laptop and find a website selling them. I ended up finding a good listing on this website, so I bought some, and the next day they got delivered to my house. As you can see, I bought a pretty good amount of these guys, and as you can probably also see, they're super creepy. They got that signature glossy black color, a massive abdomen, and of course, they got the red hourglasses on the back of that abdomen to let you know they're extremely venomous. In fact, something I just learned about these guys is their venom is actually 15 times more potent than rattlesnake venom. That's why when I opened the container to get a closer look, I got extremely scared when they started running away straight towards me. Bro, that Black Widow just ran out of here. He webbed down the side of the table and just started running around the floor. But don't worry, I actually scooped him up into this box I had laying around. I'm pretty scared of Black Widows. Anyways, I went and put one of the Black Widows inside the cheap trap enclosure and got 30 minutes on the clock. This is about to get interesting. Let's see what happens. Right away, the Black Widow made her way towards the traps. Now, Black Widows are a lot slower than crickets and flies, so if this spider steps inside a trap, there's a high likelihood of it getting caught. And while nothing really happened for the first couple of minutes, eventually the spider started to walk along the tops of some of the traps. You can see Black Widows are very meticulous with their movement, and it would very carefully place its legs above the trap, making sure not to step inside. But even with that, the spider was playing a dangerous game, because all it needed was one bad step. Anyways, about 15 minutes later, I noticed that the spider had actually started to spin a little bit of silk, and maybe it was planning on building its web here. But unfortunately, she would never get the chance to finish, because she took a wrong turn into the Venus flytrap, and well, it closed straight on her. Almost perfectly. However, there was still some legs sticking out. To be honest, it didn't look good for the Black Widow, and besides a few leg twitches, it looked like the spider had just lost to the Venus flytrap. And if you thought that was cool, well, you gotta see the expensive Venus flytraps, because right after putting the Black Widow in, he instantly walked up to a Venus flytrap. And literally within the first 30 seconds of the timer, he stepped inside one of the traps, ducked down a little bit too much, and the trap closed on him within an instant. In my opinion, this one was even cooler to watch, and yeah, His legs were also just stuck sticking out of the sides of the trap. Yeah, who knew Venus flytraps could eat black widows? And speaking of eating things, this next video is about me getting another one of the craziest pets ever. A toe biter. This is that. This is a toe biter. Yeah, might sound funny, but these little bugs live in lakes and spend all day eating everything they lay their eyes on. And to humans, they're known for injecting venom into toes, causing extreme amounts of pain. So I found this website that will sell me some to keep as pets. Yep, I'm gonna build them a home in this fish tank. Let's buy 2 of these. Let's see how this goes. And you already know, the delivery drivers worked overtime to get these to me as soon as possible. So I cut it open so I could get out the containers. Supposedly the bugs were inside. All right, let's see these. Oh shoot, no, this thing's massive. Since it was kind of hard to get a good look at them in these containers, I got out this temporary tank and put them in. I was very careful because supposedly these guys have wings, meaning they could just fly out to my toes and start biting them if I wasn't careful. Anyways, now we can really see how absolutely vicious these guys are with their insanely sharp pincher forceps that they actually use to latch onto prey in the wild. Then, using a little sharp mouthpiece they have, they inject a special type of venom into prey that turns the inside of their body into liquid that they then proceed to slurp up like a smoothie. Yeah, I really hope these guys don't escape while making this video. But anyways, let's just build them a home and keep them as pets. This can't go well, but the first step is to make the background of their home. To make this look good, I wanted to put this black board along the back. That way the tank would have more of this dark feel that matches how creepy the toe biters are. Then I got out some spray foam. Yep, wouldn't be a Terra Green video without it. But this time I used the foam to connect all these pieces of cork bark along the back to add some sort of natural feel to it. I even went and covered all the excess spray foam with some dirt so it wouldn't be as ugly. But the coolest thing is, as you can see, is I actually hid some of these plant pots along the top. Basically, it's gonna allow me to plant some beautiful plants in here, and it's gonna be super luscious by the end of the video probably. But to really complete this backdrop, we need to add these. These are called sticks. Yep, and we're gonna put these along the back wall. If you didn't know, sticks are really cool because they grow from trees, and they're actually made of wood. I'm just kidding, guys. I know you guys all know what sticks are. I don't know why I'm explaining this. Anyways, yeah, I put so many of these sticks along the back because I really wanted to make this place look like some underwater mangrove swamp with so many roots everywhere. I'm already loving how this is coming together, and we're not even on step 2, which is actually to make the floor and decorations. For this build, I just wanted to use this simple gravel material for the floor. But along with it, I've also got this, which I've never actually used before. It's a little underground cave that goes up against the glass. Basically, after we go and fill up the rest of this floor with gravel, you can see this cave stays as an open area that stuff can go inside. And maybe our toe biters will come and chill in here, or maybe some of the prey we add will come and hide in here, for as long as they can, of course. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't add any of this aqua soil like I usually do, and well, that's because I'm not gonna put any sort of plants in here this time. Instead, I want it to look like some abandoned swampy area with super murky water, and we do that by putting a ton of natural materials around, like this big driftwood piece coming out the middle, and then a bunch of smaller stuff like these dead leaves, some mini pine cones, and little sticks. But most importantly, I've got some beta miracle leaves. Oh yeah, I don't know why they're called miracle leaves, but hopefully they spread some sort of miracle around the tank. Something like that, surely. But actually, I kind of do know why these are called miracle leaves. Because if I go and fill up this floor area with just a bit of water, you can see over the span of about an hour, it starts to turn into this brown, murky color. That's because those leaves and all the other natural stuff I added inside is spreading around tannins in the water, which turns it this color. And it's actually super healthy for any fish or bugs that would live in here. Dang, the more you know. Anyways, I drained that while I continued on with the build by putting in a few lava rocks and covering them in a bit of the sphagnum moss, which I also put all over the background of the enclosure. Finally, the most important decoration is some little mini plastic boots. Yeah, because we all know at the bottom of every lake and stuff, they just got like boots and stuff. At least that's what all the fishing games I've played have told me. Yeah, I got some pretty cool decorations, as you can see. I'm just gonna put that there. Now for my favorite part of each of these weird pet videos, the DIY decorations. And for the first one, let's make some pictures. Yep, I literally went out and bought these mini dollhouse picture frames. I'm just gonna scatter all around the enclosure with funny pictures of toe biters. And to make some funny pictures, I gotta do some photoshopping. I'm a Photoshop master, so this should go pretty well. First of all, I used my expert skills to make a picture of a toe biter eating one of its favorite foods ever, a frog. Yes, they actually eat frogs in the wild. Then I made this picture of a toe biter flying in the air with beautiful angel wings. Because yeah, like I said, they can actually fly with their actual wings, but they don't look as majestical as these angel wings, of course. Finally, Additionally, I found this picture of what it looks like when a toe biter lays eggs. Yeah, apparently they literally keep them on their back until they hatch. So I put a bunch of baby toe biters all around this mom toe biter. Then we just gotta go and print out these fantastical pictures. And yes, I finally got a printer at my house, so I don't gotta go to the store no more. And wait, no, what the heck is this, bruh? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I forgot you gotta buy color for the ink. Okay, I guess I gotta go to the store anyways. Please do that, by the way. Yeah, so I drove to the printing store to get the photos instead. Anyways, when I got home, I cut out all the little images and put them inside their frames. As you can see, I obviously have the ones I photoshopped, but I also found this picture of all the toe biters' favorite foods, like insects and fish, so they can daydream about them all day. And I also found this picture on Google of some crazy person who willingly let this thing bite him. Why the heck would you do that, bro? I don't know, I just thought I had to put this in. Anyways, for the next DIY build, I'm gonna make some signs. Yep, I literally went out and bought all these random pieces of wood so I could burn some cool patterns on them with my super hot wood burning pen. With the first sign, I made it say, beware of the biter. And I even put a little bit of eye emojis at the bottom. You know, I just thought those looked cool. And then on the second sign, I made it said, rest in peace to all the insects and fish that enter this tank. Because as you know, toe biters do not take kindly to those kind of things. And I could just go and put these inside of the tank. I kind of want them to look like signs. So I got these sticks that I use for the background, which I'm gonna go and hot glue to the back of them. Once they dried, I stuck the two signs in the floor and got out the final sign that I was gonna make a pattern on. This time, I stuck these little wooden letters onto the sign to write toe biters. Then I completely burned all the letters black so they stood out. All right, let's just hang that right there. And oh, that's actually fire. Hold on, wait, that's actually on fire. Oh, no, I'm just kidding, guys. It's just some editing. Yeah, don't worry, but it is actually fire. That's pretty cool. And now the build only needs one more thing. Some plants to put in those pots that I had at the top of the enclosure. So I drove to Walmart to buy them. Oh yeah, I haven't been to Walmart in so long. I already know they're gonna have some fire plants. Bro, what is this? Wait, this is the entire plant section? Yeah, I don't know what my Walmart is doing, because why the heck is there only like 5 plants here? None of these plants are even the right type, and they would all die in the water. Come on. And tops it'll fly out. So I instead went with a different approach and moved the cork bark to the new tank and instead used this net to try and transport the toe biters without them flying away. Move. Okay. Thankfully, it was a little bit more successful, so I did the same with the other toe biter, and you can see they both just swam straight down to grab onto something, and they stayed completely still. But they do this for a purpose. You see, toe biters have evolved to have the exact same pattern and shape as a dead leaf, and they stay completely still till some prey swims by them. Then they pounce on it. So you already know, let's test the 3 food sources with these guys, starting with the smallest, which is actually mealworms, which I got right here. Mealworms are one of the most common foods for the kind of pets I keep, so I had a feeling these guys would definitely enjoy them. First of all, I dumped one in the water with some tweezers and waved around in front of this guy. And instantly, he dashed off of his rock towards it, and it actually scared me a bit, but he didn't even actually end up attacking the mealworm. So when he found a new spot to go and rest, I did the same exact thing. And this time, he struck at it, and he scared me so much, I actually dropped the tweezers with the worm. I don't know why this scared me. I'm literally using tweezers, but yeah. Anyways, on the 3rd attempt, this is what happens. He went and grabbed the mealworm with his claws, and he actually got a good grip with it. Then he brought out his sharp mouthpiece and started finding a good spot to poke into the worm with. Eventually, he made the bite, and as I said earlier, they inject a special digestive enzyme into their prey that turns the inside of them into a liquid that they then proceed to slurp up like a smoothie. And yeah, this must have been a tasty smoothie. All right, I'm gonna give mealworms a 7 out of 10 because those toe biters like them kind of a lot. But next up, we got an even bigger insect. We got some roaches, baby. I think there's roaches in here. Oh yeah, right there. You see them. I wanted to make this one quick, so instantly I put one of these roaches in front of the second toe biter, and almost immediately he pounced onto my tweezers totally, and he just like would not let go. I think he didn't even see the roach, so I just knocked him off the tweezers and tried again. This time he actually grabbed the roach, but he also grabbed onto my tweezers again and straight up just would not let go. So I kind of just set the tweezers down while he ate the roach, and you can see this guy was also absolutely slurping this up and probably enjoying it a lot. All right, I'll give roach his 8 out of 10. It seemed like they like him a little bit more, but now it's time for the toe biter's real favorite food, or at least that's what I've heard. You see, insects are great and all, but in order for my toe biters to be healthy and thriving, they need to eat fish because that's what they eat in the wild mostly. And thankfully online, there's tons of websites that sell feeder fish just for this purpose. So I bought 2 of them so we can get our pet toe biters their proper nutrition. instructions. The next day, they got delivered, so I got them ready to feed. All right, let's do this. And I even got my GoPro so I can get some nice underwater shots of these toe biters eating. Let's dump one of these fish inside. The fish that I had put inside immediately started swimming around. But little did he know that this was the home of my pet toe biters, which were secretly sitting right next to him, watching his every move. And only a couple minutes later, he got a little too curious and started swimming near the toe biter. The toe biter was preparing to strike, but he had to wait for the perfect opportunity in order to not scare the fish away. And when the moment was right, he pounced off the rocks and missed and scared it away. Bruh, come on, I thought you were a master hunter. So instead, 5 minutes later, I decided to just help him out by feeding him with some tweezers. There you go, boy. Hope you enjoy. And yeah, this seemed like it was probably his favorite food, and he would not let go. But since it's easier and nicer to feed insects, I'll mostly stick to them, and I'll just have fish be a special occasion for when they need the proper nutrients. Anyways, this is pet toe biters. Hope you guys learned something new. Anyways, next up is one of my favorite videos because I traveled out to a forest in the pitch black night to find the coolest nocturnal animals under rocks. You gotta watch this. During the day, there's tons of rocks, which when you flip them, you find cool little bugs like this. But you see, if you wait until night to flip rocks, you're able to find way crazier nocturnal animals like glowing scorpions, giant tarantulas, and so much more that you would have never found during the day. Right, it's trapped inside. So I figured I'd try and help the ant out of the web before a spider came to eat him, but that's when I saw that the ant's movement was being really weird, and it was twitching everywhere. That's when I realized that this ant's head was missing. Yeah, I have no idea how this thing is even moving without a brain even connected to its body, but I guess the spider already got to. My attention was his abdomen, because it looked like an eye. Seriously, it just looks like an eye off of some sort of snake species. Imagine when this spider grows bigger and sets up a web in the trees, it's just gonna look like a menacing eye staring down at you, especially at night. That's gotta be creepy. Anyways, as I kept on walking, I got to object 14, and underneath was this little white thing. It's an oak toad, and it's actually pretty dang cute. And right next to this white oak toad was a darker brown oak toad, which if you didn't know, this is the smallest toad species in all of America, and since they're pretty unique, I just had to take out the backpack. And once again, I pulled out some crickets, but this time they're a bit smaller, so these toads will hopefully be able to eat them. So I tried dropping in a few first near the white toad, and he didn't seem very interested. He kind of just hid under the dirt, so I tried putting some crickets by the brown toad, and he just started running away full speed and also wasn't hungry. However, while that was happening, I saw this little ant walk by and didn't really get a good look at it, but eventually when it stood still, I could tell this was a house centipede, which usually live in houses, hence their name. So I guess this guy escaped into the forest, and yeah, they're just so creepy.
I mean, it's got the head of a cricket, as many legs as a centipede, obviously. And I don't know, it's just like some mutant creature, basically. Oh my gosh, it's so fast.
Yeah, it's basically an alien creature. And speaking of alien creatures, under the very next rock, I found this. It's an ant colony. But what actually caught my attention was right over to the side. This thing.
Nothing. But I actually have a really good idea with something in the backpack. You see, in here, I've actually packed this thing, which is a thermal camera. And if there's animals out here, this thing's definitely going to be able to track it. That's all I'll say.
Basically, a thermal camera picks up heat in the environment, which allows me to see animals during the night. So I started to just go around, pointing it in random directions and putting it under rocks. But as I was doing that, I saw something red appear on the camera. So I looked at what was in front of me and I realized that this was an absolutely insane find. It was an antlion larva. If you don't know what these are, they're basically these little insects that dig out circular traps in the floor specifically designed to trap ants. And when an unsuspecting ant walks in, the antlion makes an attack. And as you can see here, I found an antlion attacking an ant live in person. The antlion was throwing dirt up at the ant as it tried to escape. They do this to try and knock the ant back inside and make it super hard to escape. But I guess this antlion didn't dig a big enough hole because the ant was able to escape.
Bro, I didn't even know these guys lived in deserts. I thought they only lived in forests. That's so crazy.
But yeah, once antlion larvae eat enough ants, they basically evolve like a Pokemon into their final form, which is this all of America. And obviously, it was much bigger than the one I found at the start of the video.
Now, as you guys know, scorpions are able to glow under UV light, like I showed earlier in the video, which of course, even the desert ones, they glow too. But I actually have something fun that I want to go and try and test with this guy.
From the backpack, I got out crickets and tweezers. I know, I'm feeding crickets again, but this was easily the coolest feeding experience experience I've had in a rock flipping video. Because at first, I put the cricket up to the scorpion's mouth, and he grabbed it with his pinchers and kind of just held it for a second.
Dang, he really just took the cricket from me. He's just holding it now. Bro, are you gonna eat it? Don't just leave the cricket in your claws. I bet that hurts the cricket, bro.
So I took it from him and gave him another chance to eat it. This time, he used both of his pinchers to get a really good grip on it. Then he slowly moved his stinger up to it and gave it a little tap. These guys' venom isn't deadly to humans, but to little crickets like this guy, it'll completely paralyze him while the scorpion eats. Now, I wanted to show you guys this super zoomed in footage because basically scorpions use their little mouthpieces to rip open their food until juice starts to leak out. Then they suck the juice up and you can literally see the juice fill up his head as he ate it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then he kind of just started to walk around with the cricket in his mouth and no hands. Dang, bro, cool. Hope you enjoy the food. A few rock clips later, I ended up finding this. It was an ant colony, but they were super tiny. But what stood out to me was the fact that they almost all had wings, which is pretty rare. All of these winged ants are called elates, and basically they're born only once a year. It looks like they were getting ready for their annual nuptial flight, and probably when the morning comes, they're all gonna fly away, find other colonies of elates so they can mate with, and after they're done mating, the males die, and the females tear off their wings to start their own colony. It's pretty cool to see. As I continued on down the trail, I flipped to this, and found some blue death feigning beetles. Not only are these guys pretty big and look super cool with their blue exoskeleton, but they have a crazy special ability to develop a kind of wax on their body that acts as a sunscreen. And they do this because the heat can obviously get pretty hot in desert environments, and this sunscreen they produce just allows them to thrive while other animals have to take breaks from getting too. It is impossible to squish. While holding it, you could see the little stinger extend out of the back of the abdomen, but then I started to hear it squeak. As you can see, they're able to repeatedly contract their abdomen to make this squeaky sound when threatened. And honestly, I don't really know why they do this, because if I was a predator, this squeak would not deter me. I think they should just stick to using their insane stinger as a deterrence method. The next object I flipped had something I've never seen before. It's a camel spider. Probably the most creepiest, most disgustingest creature in all of the desert. I mean, it's a spider that almost looks like a scorpion and has a mouth of like an evil demon. But I know these guys from a video uploaded almost 10 years ago, where this guy Coyote Peterson, for some reason, let a massive camel spider bite him. And yeah, this was his reaction.
Holy cow, that hurts. Oh my gosh, his little mandibles are razor sharp. Jeez, that hurts, like little tiny needles going into my finger.
Yeah, I don't know what you expected, bro. Why on earth would you let this thing bite you? I'm definitely not gonna do the same. Rocks I was flipping, I was finding some more scorpions, which obviously I made all glow. I even found this baby scorpion next to an adult scorpion, and I don't know if this is the kid or something, but I do know scorpions have some of the most interesting ways to raise babies. Because once the moms give birth, all of the like 20 baby scorpions will latch onto the back of her and just chill there for up to 20 days. Very cool. Since deserts are super dry, you find a lot less of the tiny little bugs that I was finding in the forest, so a lot of the final rock flips just straight up had nothing. And I got all the way to rock 100, and when I flipped it, thankfully there was actually something. And I mean something insane. This is a wolf spider, which in itself is not actually that rare. I found a ton of them in the forest section that I just didn't end up showing since they were kind of small, but this guy was massive, like almost as big as that tarantula from the start of the video. And I've heard big wolf spiders like this are so cool to watch hunt, so I got crickets out one final time.
I go and try and feed one to the wolf spider. Okay, I'm just gonna drop it. Oh shoot, he just ambushed that. Oh my gosh, that's brutal. That happened in like half a second.
Yeah, crickets are definitely not a fan of the Terra Green channel, because every time I bring them on, they end up in a wolf spider's mouth or something. Yep, that night was filled with the craziest animal finds. But next up is a video where I raised an ant colony, and I trained them up to be able to fight a black widow at the end of the video. So here's that. If 1,000 ants had to fight a black widow, what would actually happen? Would the spider's venom come out on top, or would the sheer number of ants overwhelm her? Well, in this video, I'm gonna test ants against that and tons of other interesting scenarios to see how strong ants really are. The only problem is I don't have 1,000 ants. Thankfully, I found this website that sells just that. And the coolest thing is it's a mystery species, meaning we might actually get something really good. $300. Let's just add this to the cart. And I bought the most expensive shipping option to make sure the ants would arrive without any dying during the shipping. Oh, I am so excited. As long as I get a good species, it's gonna be so fun to watch these go against the black widow and everything else I have planned for them. Anyways, I brought them to the recording area and opened up the package, and I was kind of surprised by what I found. Nah, are they in here? Oh my gosh, okay, there actually is like 1,000. Okay, at least I didn't get scammed. Since they were in a pill bottle, I couldn't really really get a good look at them, so I got a clear container and dumped them all inside. Instantly, you could now see the true scale of what 1,000 ants actually looks like. And at least, I think it's 1,000. I'm not counting all these guys. And after analyzing the species, I realized that these were harvester ants, which are equipped with venomous stingers. And massive mandibles, meaning yes, this was actually going to be a very interesting video with everything I was going to test. Now, for these 1,000 ants to be able to fight a black widow, we first need to get them in a nest. And well, everyone say hello to the Terra jar. It's like Terra green, except I replaced the green with a jar. Anyways, let me go and dump all these guys in here. Be free, everyone. This is way bigger than that tiny pill bottle you were in. Right away, you could see the ants starting to move around on top of the soil. Now, you might be thinking that this isn't enough space for the ants. Well, it actually is, because this is specifically designed for the ants to dig out tunnels all along the sides of the glass. And as the video progresses, we're gonna see their nest get crazier and crazier. And yeah, most of the ants were kind of going crazy trying to climb up the glass, but after leaving them alone for only a few hours, you could see they were already starting to construct their tunnel system. Each of the worker ants would pick up singular grains of sand from the tunnels, walk up to the surface, drop the sand, and go back down to repeat the process. And when you have 1,000 ants, you can see they dig out a pretty good amount in only just an hour of this time-lapse footage. Oh yeah, it's sick to see the ants already starting to build their nest, and it should be fully dug out by the end of the video. Anyways, as you know, I'll be putting these guys to the test against a black widow. But before then, I have all of these different training activities to prepare the ants for the final spider boss. And second up, we're gonna see how fast they can take down some prey. Yup. We've got a cricket. Oh my gosh, crickets hate me, and sorry buddy, you are gonna be, well, I guess you guys will just see what's about to happen. And well, right after dropping the cricket in, literally within like a nanosecond, the ants were swarming it. I thought it would only take like a couple minutes, but no, this cricket was already pinned down, getting venom injected into him. As I said earlier, each of these ants is equipped with a venomous stinger that is obviously not super deadly to humans, but to crickets, when there's like 20 ants repeatedly stinging you, you're kind of done for. Yep, ants don't play around when there's a threat near their nest, and you can see over the next 30 minutes, the cricket stayed completely surrounded by the ants. And I'm guessing they already started to rip its antennas off and stuff to get a tasty meal to spread with the rest of the colony. Dang, that was cool to watch. Anyways, it's getting late, so I think I'm gonna go and put this bucket on top of the ants so it's dark for them. I'm gonna go to sleep, and hopefully when I wake up, there's gonna be tons more tunnels. Anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning. And over those next 10 hours, the ants made their tunnels so much larger and more intricate than before. And on the back, they even had tunnels all the way down at the bottom, with ants actively walking about the whole system. Anyway, ants, it's 8 a.m., and that means it's time. As you can see, the alarm's going off. It's time for challenge number 3. Let's get these ants trained even more. For this training, I have to pick up one unlucky ant and transport him to the ant lion pit. If you don't know what an ant lion is, well, this is it. It's just a tiny little bug that has actually evolved over millions of years to be an expert at taking down ants. Basically, when you go and put them on the floor, they start to dig themselves under the ground, and then they just go around digging. And I have 9 more of these guys, which I spread across the whole tank. And as you can see, they all dig around, making these little lines in the ground. But after waiting a few hours, you can see that each of the ant lions had actually dug out their own little pits in the ground, and when an ant walks into the bottom of them, they're basically cooked. All right, ant, I'm gonna put you right at the start, and at the end, I'm gonna put some breadcrumbs so you can bring back to the colony if you survive this. And without further ado, I let the ant loose. Let's see if he can get the bread to feed the colony. Immediately, he started to explore around the sand area. He had no idea that he was constantly walking near these pits of death, and eventually he took a wrong step and stumbled inside of one. These pits are specifically designed to make the ants trip into them, but the ant lion at the bottom must have been sleeping or something, because nothing happened and the ant was just able to walk out. But if you look closely, this caused the ant lion to wake up. He was now active and armed, with his mandibles now throwing up sand in case the ant walked in again. And over the next few minutes, the ant did just that. He kept walking inside of the pit, but the ant lion just could never quite snap on the ant at the right time. Well, that was until this. You see, this is paused footage, but basically if we unpause it, you can see exactly what happens when an ant lion gets a hold of the ant. The ant lion started to bring the ant underground, and within a few seconds, it was like there was never anything even here. I thought it was over, and you could tell by the sand moving that the ant was getting pulled further and further underground. But all of a sudden, I saw this. A little bit of the ant's head had poked out of the ground. He somehow was fighting back, and must have been using its stinger to try and escape. I immediately rushed back and recorded with my other camera, and what I saw was so weird. The ant had somehow made it out from under the sand, but it wasn't trying to escape. In fact, it was using its front legs to try and dig back under the ground.
Bro, what the heck? Why is this ant digging like a dog? He's literally using his front legs to dig in the sand where he almost just got killed. Bro, this guy's crazy. Nah, bro, if you want to be eaten by an antlion that bad, I will gladly put you right there. Have fun, buddy.
And right after putting him in this pit, this antlion also woke up and eventually snapped at the ants. And it once again started to pull him underground. But miraculously, this ant was able to fight back once again and somehow broke free, immediately ran out of the hole and straight over to the breadcrumbs to claim his prize. Nah, this ant tricked me to have me move him closer to the bread, and now he somehow won the challenge. Nah, bro, there is something up with these ants. I'm being dead serious. How on earth did he escape the antlion pit over here? And how on earth did he escape this one and then know to go to the bread? And now he's trying to bring bread back to the colony. Bro, well played. You survived. I'll bring you and all the bread back to the colony. So I brought it all over to the nest, and the entire colony was clearly super excited because they all swarmed the bread and started taking little pieces of it underground. Anyways, I went and waited a few hours and came back to find the nest even bigger once again. The ants still are not done with their training sessions, and next up, we gotta see if they can survive some Venus flytraps for some food. So I immediately picked up some of the workers to bring them to the flytrap minefield, completely decked out with tons of Venus flytrap plants. And for the food on this obstacle, we got a gorilla. I'm just kidding. I don't know why it's packaged in this. Basically what it is just a bunch of oats, and I'm just gonna feed these to the ants. Let's put them inside. You see, each Venus flytrap has these tiny little trigger hairs inside of them, and when something touches them, it causes them to close. And if I carefully put the oats in between the hairs without hitting any of them, I can basically just put the food in here, which will make the ants have to carry them out. But it was actually pretty hard to get the oats perfectly inside, so I ended up just spreading the oats everywhere around the tank. All right, let's see how the ants do in here. I have a feeling they're not gonna do too well, but yeah, we'll see. Immediately, the ants had started to swarm out the tube that I put them in, and they were probably really confused of why they were all just transported away from their nest. And for a little while, they kind of just walked around, investigating their new environment. But that was until a couple minutes later, where this first ant walked up to a Venus flytrap plant. He probably had no idea that these plants were basically alive and wanted to eat him whole. Thankfully though, this guy was able to walk out of the plants without triggering any of the traps. However, a few minutes later, this ant walked up to another one of the plants, and well, this time all I'll say is he wasn't as lucky. Surprisingly, he wasn't super attracted to the oats, but it did seem like he may have been attracted to the traps themselves. You see, Venus flytraps create a very thin layer of nectar around the lip of the jaws to lure insects in. And eventually, this ant ended up, well, walking into one, hitting a trigger hair, and just like that, he was now stuck inside of the jaws. As you can see, the ant was just walking around inside trying to escape, and he had no idea what to do. Too bad for this guy. This trap is going to release a type of acid over the next few days to basically just turn him into some nutrients to make the plant even stronger. Now, interestingly enough, pretty much all the ants I had put inside were staying away from the traps and were all grouped up around this corner. In fact, they were actually starting the process of digging some more tunnels. Now, these ants still think they're in the nest. They're just trying to dig. Well, I mean, I guess it's pretty smart if you're not getting eaten by the traps. Because over the next 20 minutes, only one single ant came across another Venus flytrap. This guy. Let's call him Larry. Now, Larry is a daredevil because he was walking all over the jaws of all of these plants, absolutely risking it for the biscuit. But eventually, Larry's luck ran out because of this happened. The jaw had closed on him, leaving half of his body stuck out of it. But this was actually pretty good for Larry because it means he had a chance to escape. Using all of his strength, which albeit is not very much, he tried pushing himself out of the jaws. But the trap is designed to just get tighter and tighter as time goes on, meaning this ant was doomed. Well, not actually, because I kind of felt bad for Larry, so I cheated nature and used my tweezers to open the trap. I safely got Larry out and brought him back to the rest of the colony. Anyways, that training actually went really well. Every single ant survived except one. So I brought them all back to the nest and gave the whole colony a bunch of these little gorilla oats to show my support. As you can see, it didn't take long for some of the ants to start moving the oats down to their intricate tunnel systems. And speaking of these tunnel systems, the last training session I'm putting these ants through before the Black Widow is a flood simulation. Yeah, I'm flooding this ant nest. Well, kinda, because if I actually flooded this thing, it would kill every single ant. So instead, I've got this thing called the Little Dripper, which as you can see, drips some water droplets very slowly.
Yeah, it might seem kind of lame, but this little bit of water should be enough to eventually collapse part of the ants' tunnel system. And if it does collapse, if they can fix it quickly, it means they would have passed all my training missions, and that means they're ready for the Black Widow. So I immediately started to drop the little droplets of water. And initially, the ants were very confused. Some of the droplets were hitting the ants and making them get completely drenched in water. But to my surprise, it almost seemed like the ants wanted to get wet, because more and more of the ants started to gather around where the water was dropping, and eventually a whole pile of ants was getting completely soaked by it. You see, ants are amazing in their ability to work as a team, and in the wild, if a real flood occurred, a massive ant colony would literally join together to make a raft out of their bodies. And that way the important stuff like the queen and eggs could stay on the top and stay dry to ensure the future of the colony. And on a mini scale, this is sort of what the ants are doing here. They're joining together to make a shield out of their bodies that will prevent the water from getting into their tunnels where all the eggs are stored.
Wow, ants are actually amazing. I was totally expecting these tunnels to just collapse from the water, but it seems like ants have literally evolved to do pretty much anything.
I'll remove this water. I don't want to do any more harm. You guys prove to me you're very capable.
They instantly took down the cricket, somehow escaped the ant lions, survived the Venus flytraps, and even survived a flood. And throughout that process, they managed to build an awesome nest with a thriving colony.
It is safe to say these ants are ready for my Black Widow. Now this is actually my last Black Widow because all the other ones from my other videos have escaped. Yeah, don't tell my mom.
But anyways, I went and put the Black Widow in a container so you guys could get a good look at it. And as you can tell, it has that insane, iconic red hourglass abdomen. Wait, sorry. This is my pet robot Black Widow. This is not the real one. Here is the real Black Widow. As you can tell, it's extremely creepy. And under its glossy black abdomen is where the red hourglass is located. These guys have an insane amount of venom, so if it even bites a single ant, it's safe to say it's gonna be a goner. Anyways, here is the tank where the final battle will take place. I went and put a few sticks from my backyard, then I put in the Black Widow. Immediately, she started climbing all over the sticks, and I went and waited a little while she sort of settled in and found a nice spot to rest. Once she did, I went to the ant nest, scooped a good amount of the workers into a tube so we could get this battle started.
Let's get these ants in here. Let the games begin!
Immediately, the ants started to run out of the tube and down onto the sand. When pretty much all of the ants had made it down to the sand, some started to make their way over to the Black Widow, which was just perched right above them on the sticks. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty impatient guy, and I couldn't bear to wait for the battle to start. So I literally picked up the stick myself to bring the spider down to the ants. Immediately, the spider started to run around, and none of the ants really noticed besides this guy. That kind of bit the spider's leg or something and scared it away. The spider tried to escape as fast as it could by climbing the glass, but it was too slick. Once a few other of the ants had noticed the Black Widow was on the ground, they started to jump it. And it was actually pretty funny to watch because as you can see, there's barely any ants and the spider was so scared trying to run away at full speed. Bro, you're like the most venomous spider in the world. Why are you not just fighting back? And yeah, a couple of the ants just kind of continued to terrorize the Black Widow. But the thing is, all of the rest of the ants were kind of just doing their own thing at the other side of the enclosure. I had to make this more interesting, so I had a better plan. I went and picked up all of the ants to bring them back to the nest.
Alright, well, I got the Black Widow from the tank. And hey, the title did say 1,000 ants versus Black Widow. Let's actually put this to the test against 1,000 ants.
And well, I dropped the spider inside, and it immediately started going crazy, running everywhere. And obviously, the ants did not act kindly. Every single worker went on red alert mode and jumped onto the spider, grabbing her with their mandibles and repeatedly stinging it over and over. As you saw with the cricket, ants do not mess around with stuff in their nest. And to my surprise, the Black Widow did not even get a chance to fight back. It's actually pretty crazy how quickly the ants had pinned it down and started to devour it. And yeah, well, that's literally all that happened. While it sucks to see the Black Widow get eaten like that, ant colonies need protein like this from other insects in order to survive. It's the brutal reality of nature. Anyways, that's gonna be fun to watch that ant colony grow even more. And in this next video, I helped save an abandoned axolotl, and at the end, I showed how cool they were. Check this out. I just found this website that saves dying axolotls and lets you buy them so you can help save them too. But I've seen videos of people ordering from here, and some of the axolotls they get are in really rough shape. I have no idea what condition the one I'm gonna get is gonna be in, but I wanna do my part to help. Hopefully we'll still be able to save it. Let's add this to the cart. And of course, I paid extra for one-day delivery, so this axolotl didn't have to spend any extra time in this box.
Oh, I really hope this axolotl is okay. Okay, there's ice packs. That's a good sinus package. Well, now for the moment of truth. Let's see this axolotl.
The axolotl was alive, and so I quickly brought it over to this temporary tank so I could put her inside and get a better look. She was a beautiful black axolotl, almost 10 inches long, meaning this thing was fully grown. Now, I actually went and emailed the people I bought this from, and they told me when they got it, this axolotl was found at a pet shop. And when they got it, it had these massive white spots on it and even a chunk of its tail missing. But axolotls are amazing because they're one of the few animals that are able to regrow limbs literally from nothing. It's insane. And this girl had already made a substantial amount of progress in healing her tail, as you can see. But they also said that she's not fully recovered yet, and they said to add this chemical called a stress guard, which I have right here, as you can see. And yeah, basically this stuff will add a little bit of a slime coat to the axolotl's skin and help it recover even faster in this temporary tank. So it's my goal to get this axolotl fully thriving again by the end of the video, and while we wait for the stress guard to take effect, let's build its dream home, which every axolotl tank of course starts with the floor, which we'll start by adding in a layer of this aqua soil that will give the proper nutrients to all the cool plants we're gonna add in here. Then we're gonna cover that with a layer of sand so the soil won't make the water dirty at all.
But for this build, I've got these. Like a bunch of black crystal rock stuff that I can just go and scatter all over the sand.
Obviously, our rescue axolotl has this unique dark color. So for this whole enclosure, we're gonna be matching that theme as much as I can. As you can see, I got super small black rocks that are almost like sand, medium-sized pebbles, and even large stones, which adds a ton of variety all over the sand. Very nice. But now the tank needs some big rocks, and as you can see, I've got a few different types. But the choice of which to use is clear. You see, axolotls have super delicate skin that can easily scrape on stuff, and especially our rescue axolotl cannot afford to get scraped while he heals. So I'm going to use the smoothest stones here with no rough edges, which I put a few of those on the side, and I also got out some of these pieces of wood and kind of played around with them to see which style I liked most, and I ended up deciding on this with the two long pieces of branches on the two sides. But as you can see, I've kept the middle of this enclosure completely empty. That's because secondly, I'm going to be building an axolotl cave, which yes, will literally be a cave that looks like an axolotl's head, which, well, I mean, that's the plan at least. I don't know how well it's gonna go.
And building this for the axolotl is gonna be perfect because in the wild, they absolutely love dark sheltered areas because it keeps them safe from predators. And I guess caves are made out of rocks, so I'll just start kind of stacking them around here. I bought a bunch of rocks, as you can see.
And after measuring how wide the cave was gonna be, I decided to build it outside of the tank to make it easier. Basically, the plan is we line up the rocks in a kind of circular shape, and then we get out some spray foam and, well, we just start spraying to connect them all. Yeah, I love spray foam so much because it's so useful for all of my aquarium builds. Anyways, I continued to stack the rocks up more and more with spray foam till it ended up looking sort of like the shape of an axolotl head. We got the mouth as the entrance to the cave. Then I put on some giant googly eyes to, obviously be the eyes. And finally, axolotls, of course, have these little hairy things coming out of the side of their head. These are actually the axolotl's gills, which let it breathe, which obviously we had to put on this cave, so I got some of these dark red pipe cleaners and kind of just stuck them on the side of the rocks.
Alright, but as you can tell, this is obviously a little bit tacky. I mean, the spray foam is basically like a different color than the rocks. So that's why I'm gonna add some paint. And don't worry, I double checked to make sure this is aquarium safe once it dries. The last thing we need is paint toxicity for our injured axolotl.
So yeah, I went and carved off all the excess spray foam and painted the parts that I thought would make it look better. And anyways, here is the final axolotl cave. And as you can tell, it's basically a one-on-one replica of our axolotl. So I went and put it inside, and well, boom, it is done. But you see, the coolest thing about this axolotl cave is if we go off and turn off, all the lights, the eyes glow in the dark, kinda. And it's not even that dark in here. If it was pitch black, this would be kind of scary to be looking at night, I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, before the rest of the build, you're probably wondering how the axolotl is doing. Well, she's actually doing really good. It's been about 8 hours since putting her in here, and you can tell she was being way more active, walking around thanks to that stress guard. But I've been doing even more research of how to heal the axolotl, and a lot of people are saying to use Indian almond leaves in the water. I didn't even know what those were, but I went out and bought some, of course. Whatever I can do to give the axolotl his best health, I will do. And I guess you just put them inside like that, and then just mix it around. Okay. Immediately, you can see the leaves provided a little bit of cover above the axolotl, which probably helps her feel safer, but it also starts to slowly turn the water a cloudy tea color. Basically, this is because the leaves are spreading this thing called tannins around into the water, which is just some natural thing that helps the axolotl skin get even healthier. Nice. And if you didn't already know, axolotls literally don't need any sort of land area in their tanks, which of course I know because in the new Terra Green activity bucket, there's an entire page dedicated dedicated to axolotls, where it says that, and also some other fun facts, and it even has a little activity at the bottom. So if you like my channel and you want to learn more about nature and also have tons of fun activities, make sure to check this book out. The people that have already bought it have been loving it, so yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting it. Anyways, while that goes into effect, the next step for the tank is DIY decorations. And this time, I've got a really good plan for tons of unique ones to make. And this first one's kind of not a decoration, but it's this thing. It's a circular air bubble maker, and it should give oxygen to this whole tank. And I was just gonna go and put it inside, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wanted to see what it looked like in action before we filled up the tank. So I put it in this temporary one and check it out. Oh yeah, look at the bubbles. I don't know why every time I put one of these in my tanks, it makes me excited. And yeah, I kind of was just playing around with it a little bit too much. Watching it on the side of his cave. It's not very good. Hey, it was still kind of fun to build, so I'm just gonna plop that right there. And if you think my sculpting work is super good, go ahead and leave a comment saying what I should build next. I might try one more, and I don't really know if it's gonna go too well. I also put on some googly eyes, cause of course, everything needs googly eyes to look good. Now for the final DIY technology, it's gonna be a custom plaque, which yup, I've got right here. And I'm gonna go and hang it right above the tank, so I always know what's inside of here. So don't worry, I won't be replicating how bad the statue was, so this time I will really be taking my time to follow the outline of this picture. To make the drawing on the plaque, I first drew the pattern out of pencil, and if I thought any part looked bad, I erased it and redrew it. And by the end, the outline was pretty similar to the one on my phone. And don't worry, I know you can barely see this, so in order to actually engrave it into the plaque, I now had to use this wood burning thing. Basically, the end of this pen is like a bajillion degrees hot, and it literally burns the pattern into the wood. It's kind of like what I did in my camouflaged mantis video when I made the sticks black, but yeah, just much more controlled, and it didn't take too long to finish it all up. I even went and wrote what I was gonna name the axolotl at the top of the plaque. Yep, I'm naming it Black's the Axe. A lotl in parentheses, because obviously it's a black axolotl. I feel like that name fits and it rhymes. Black's the axe. Anyways, let's hang this up. So I went and hung it above the tank, and now we can actually focus on making this tank look good again with our final step, which is some plants. Now I'd love for the plants in here to match the black theme, but unfortunately black plants mean dead plants. So I'm gonna have to stick to some old-fashioned blue plants. I mean green plants. They don't have blue plants. So you already know the drill. I drove to Petco, pretty much bought out their entire stock. And by the way, sorry to anyone that needs to get plants here after I visit. I always buy all the good ones. And I brought them back home. Now for some reason, I forgot to click record on my camera during the planting process. But just imagine this is what it looked like. I took the plants, put them in the sand, and I did that with all of them. Yep, pretty revolutionary stuff. Then I filled it with cycled water, which I also forgot to record, but by the end, it looked like this. And well, everything on this list is now complete, meaning it's time to get the axolotl inside and do tons of other fun stuff with him to give him the best life after being injured. Oh, Blacks, I got some good news for you. I don't know if you've ever been in a proper enclosure, but what I'm about to add you to definitely is. So I brought my new friend over to the enclosure and let him free. Immediately, he was already super active, exploring around the whole thing, which was a good sign. But I'm gonna be obviously doing more than just watching this guy. I have all these fun things that I want to test with this guy real quick. And the first one is food. Let's test 3 different food sources, starting with this. It's some like freeze-dried bloodworms. Yeah, let me unpackage these. The goal is to see how quickly Blacks will eat each food source to see which he likes the most. And well, with these bloodworms, she was actually pretty interested, because after like a second, she saw them and snapped, but she missed them. So she tried another attempt at eating them and failed again. But finally, she did actually get a hold of the rest of the worm, and boom, that only took like 10 seconds. Yeah, and she also looked so cute and happy after eating that. Dang, she must have been hungry. All right, he ate those pretty dang quick, but I have a feeling he's gonna eat these ones even faster. These are proper earthworms, basically. Yeah, let's see how long this one takes. And this time, the axolotl must have set a world record, because it only took a little over 1 second for her to get a hold of this worm and start devouring it. I mean, let's get an instant replay on that. Nah, look, she was ready for that worm, and yep, she was even happier after having this in her mouth, because it must have tasted spectacular. Okay, well, the third food source is these things. They're axolotl pellets. I have a feeling, though, he's not gonna like eat it as fast as those worms. That was like literally under a second, but let's try. Now, this time, let's just say the axolotl wasn't too interested, because it took seconds before she even did anything. But she did end up putting her nose right up to the pellet to figure out what was in front of her. You see, axolotls have pretty bad eyesight, so they usually rely on their nose to scope out stuff. And here, after giving the pellet a very, very thorough sniff, she eventually took a bite at it, tasted it in her mouth for like a second, and ultimately spat it back out. Okay, I guess she doesn't like pellets. But hey, this is good knowledge. I know to stick with the worms now. Anyways, about 10 minutes minutes later, I noticed Blax had walked herself into the axolotl cave that I'd built for her. Seems like she was just gonna chill in here for a bit. Hey, I'm glad she's liking it and using it.
Now for the final thing I want to test with the axolotl that's currently in the cave is, well, a GoPro. Yep, I've got a GoPro that I'm gonna stick underwater and do some fun stuff with it. All right, click record and let's switch to this camera, baby. Okay, I'm gonna start going underwater.
And yeah, after getting it to the bottom and kind of just sticking it inside the cave, you can see the axolotl's body was actually right here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see since the axolotl matches the color of the rocks, but yeah, she was just chilling in here. To see if I could lure her out, I actually went and picked up some more of her favorite food, which is the worms, of course. At first, I was kind of just waving them around in there, but she didn't really see them. Well, that was until this, when I put the worm a little deeper in, and just like that, the axolotl took it straight from my grip and was now devouring it. Yep, Blax will never pass up on the opportunity to eat a nice juicy worm, and she was not letting me grab it back, so I decided to just let her have it. Anyways, now the final thing on the list is to relocate the tank into another room.
Yep, guys, I get so many comments of you guys asking what I do with my animals after the videos.
Well, the answer is, with a lot of the cooler ones, like my frilled dragon, for example, and Switch the chameleon, I just kind of keep in random areas of the house, as you can see. Oh, you're such a good boy.
Before you know, the soil can make the water extremely dark and dirty. So this time I've come prepared with a bunch of sand. We're gonna give this a nice clean coat on top of the soil, and in order to make it look not so flat, I made this little sand hill in the left corner. But now that we've got about an inch of soil and about 1/4 an inch of sand, we can start getting cool decorations in here. And first up, let's just focus on the wood.
And yeah, I'm Terra Green, so we got some pretty good options for wood. In fact, in this closet, I think we got a lot of wood in here. Shoot, I forgot how much there was in here. This would have been useful for some past videos.
Anyways, I gathered them all up and brought it over to the mega tank. Since the wood will kind of be the base of everything, I really took a bit of time to find the exact pattern and types of wood that I liked the most. And after a little while, I ended up deciding on this. I kind of liked how all the wood was in this one area, and hopefully by the end, it's all gonna look like tree trunks growing out of the water. But for now, I actually have to take the pieces of wood out and throw them in a bathtub.
Now, technically, I don't think we have to do this, but basically the thinking is, if we let this soak up a bunch of water inside the wood, when we go and add the water inside of our fish tanks, the wood won't just like float to the top, because that's a problem sometimes I have. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave this here for a few hours.
After a couple hours, I went and put them back in the tank, added the price to the total, and now it's time to add in some rocks. We're gonna keep it simple, just a couple pretty big gray rocks scattered around that I bought from an aquarium store earlier, and I figured it'd be cool to kind of blend the gray pattern into the sand more, so I used a bunch of these tiny gray pebbles to do that to all the rocks around. And with that, I would say the base decorations of the enclosure are complete. Now we gotta do the DIY decorations.
And this is where it gets fun, because right in this area right there, I want to build a custom fish statue, because I don't really know why. I just think it'll be cool or something.
Now if you're wondering how I'm gonna do this, well, first of all, I set up a table next to the tank that I could work on, but then I got out this brick and some chisels. Yep, I'm gonna carve this brick into a fish sculpture. This probably isn't gonna go so well. I didn't watch any tutorial or anything. I just got straight to drawing a little pattern on it, and then I got straight to carving. At first, I was just using the back of the hammer, but it wasn't really effective. So I took the chisels out of their package and instead used the hammer to smack the back of it. And basically, I just did that over and over and over and over, very carefully, trying not to break it. I did make one mistake by accidentally breaking off a big piece of the base, but I quickly fixed it up until it was done.
Well, here it is. My first ever statue I sculpted out. And besides a few things I kind of messed up on it, I would say this belongs in the museums besides the greatest works of sculpts of art of ever. But yeah, anyways, let me just put this in right there and boom.
But I still kind of felt like something was missing, so I bought a very important addition, googly eyes.
There we go, that's what it was missing. If you think I should try building a statue again in a future video, let me know in the comments. And also, let me know what to build. Don't make it too hard though. I don't really want to build anything too hard.
Now for the next DIY decoration, let's make a custom aquarium background. You see, many people add these backdrops which make the back of their aquariums blue, or they can have stone textures, but I want to make my own from scratch. So I got out a big piece of poster paper and cut it to match the size of my tank. Then I got out my coloring kit and got to designing. I started by basically filling in the whole thing in with some blue marker because I sort of liked how the blue looked on some of the pictures I've seen. But from there, I started to use more markers to draw a little sand area near the bottom, some seaweed aquatic plants coming out of the sand, and finally it needed some animals, so I got the axolotl sticker from the Terra Green Essential Sticker Pack, which is available at terragreenstore.com, by the way, and put some of those on there. And finally, I put some of these Terra Green stickers also from the pack on the backdrop.
All right, we're done. Now you might be thinking, Terra Green, this looks like trash. I'm unsubscribing. What are you doing? But there's actually a really good artistic vision behind this. Let me show you guys something.
What we're gonna do is open this ChatGPT app, which is an AI software, and we're basically gonna click the camera button, take a picture of my beautiful work of art, and now I just gotta tell it what to do. ChatGPT, I need you to take this really cool drawing of an aquarium background that I make and turn it into a super cool realistic image, okay? And then basically I'm just gonna send this message off and I'll show you guys what it sends back.
And here's the final product. It actually looks pretty good. So I sent it to my computer to do some finishing touches, then I uploaded it to a printing website. The only way I could get it printed on a paper big enough for the tank is to order it online. So that's what I did.
The only thing is I have to go pick it up tomorrow. So I guess in the meantime, let's keep working on the aquarium.
And next up on the list is actually to fill up the tank with water. Now for this build, since it was so big, I actually routed my hose through my window. That way I could just turn on the faucet and it would fill up. And it only took about 15 minutes for it to fully fill up.
Now I don't actually want to just only fill this up with water, because if I had put a fish in here right now, it would die.
You see, this is because fish poop, obviously. But in aquariums, the poop actually dissolves into the water, which over time, the fish will have to breathe, and obviously, poop water isn't good for the fish. So we need to do something called cycling, which will add bacteria that eats the poop before the fish breathes it. So I added in a couple products that did just that. Then I even sprinkled in a little bit of fish food, which will basically feed the bacteria I just added and make it stronger so it can break down the poop even better. But anyways, I had to wait a whole 12 days until the cycling was done.
So yeah, now you probably know why I don't show that every video, but in the meantime, I was able to go and pick up, the backdrop. Yeah, looks pretty good.
So I put that behind the tank, and now I would say we're ready for step 4, adding in the aquatic plants. So I quickly drove to the store to go buy some.
Okay, I'm at Petco, and I have a feeling I'm about to spend a lot of money. Because if you look over here at the plants, it's $11 for this tiny plant. And a medium-sized one is even more. And, well, I need like 50 of these.
So I picked out all the ones I liked and bought them. I even ended up going to another pet store to buy all of their stock. So by the time I got home, I was absolutely stacked with aquarium plants.
If you're wondering, the total came out to $593. Yeah, that's kind of sad. But anyways, let's just get to planting them. Let's go.
First of all, I drained the cycled water into a tub to make it easier to plant. Then I went in and started to put the smaller plants in the front, the medium plants, in the middle, and the large plants in the back, of course. I even had a couple plants left over, so I started to scatter them along the wood to fill up the tank even more. Finally, I filled it back up with water, and by the end, this is what it looks like. And well, dang, I would say this is pretty good. Nice job, me. You did a good job building this. And now that the tank is complete, it's time to do the last thing. Stock it with fish. And oh boy, this is gonna be fun. Usually I buy my fish online, but this time I wanted to head to the biggest fish store in my state that will 100% have some insane species of fish. This is gonna be like a 4-hour drive, so let's go. Thankfully, you guys don't have to watch the whole 4 hours because of the magical power of editing. But anyways, here's the store.
Okay, well, I made it, but I'm not gonna lie, this place kind of looks small. Was this worth the 4-hour drive?
But when I walked inside, I figured out that this was definitely worth driving 4 hours for. Because look at this. They had like 7 of these aisles that were just absolutely stacked with the different fish species. There were so many options, and so many of the fish just looked so cool, and I wish I could buy them all, but I ended up choosing and buying just 4 different species, which I'm gonna keep a secret until I put them in the tank.
All right, the goods have been gotten, and if you're wondering, the total came out to $500. But anyways, let's just go home.
So I quickly drove the 4 hours back.
All right, now it's time to add in the fish. Now I've got 4 different species that all have some sort of unique special ability, but for now, we got the first fish species right here.
These are balloon mollies, and I've got 14 of them, which should fill up the tank pretty nicely. And after a little bit, they all swam out the net to start exploring around the tank. Instantly, they all kind of just grouped up, and they seemed like they were having an amazing time looking around their new home. Now, I did say that every fish I was gonna add has a special ability, and these guys, they have an ability, it's just not that special. You see, mollies like these guys will constantly just swim around the tank, sucking up sand or taking nips at the plants. And the reason they do this is because they're actually able to filter out microscopic little food particles from the sand and the leaves. And yeah, they basically just spend all day swimming around looking for something to eat.
Anyways, fish number 2 is in here.
These are hillstream loaches, and yeah, there's 5 of them in here, which you might not even be able to tell. And yeah, they definitely aren't your average fish species, but they're insanely cool, so I put them all inside the tank. Instantly, they swam down to the bottom because these loaches roaches are bottom dwellers, which means they spend basically all their time just chilling on the floor. But what makes these cool is not only that they look like stingrays with those flaps coming out of the body, but those flaps actually have an important purpose. You see, hillstream loaches are able to suction their body to surfaces like the side of the glass by pressing their fins down. And this basically lets them just swim along the glass and eat up any sort of algae or biofilm that grows there. Technically, these guys can get almost all their food on their own by doing this.
Man, I love these guys. They literally look like little aliens that'll suck at your face.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, but the third fish is even cooler.
These are clouded archerfish, the biggest fish I'm going to be adding. And I've shown archerfish in videos before, but these clouded ones are a bit different and they're going to go well in the tank. But the thing is, right after adding them in, the mollies actually kind of started to surround them to inspect their new tank mates. I did carefully watch this to make sure no fights broke out, because these archerfish can be slightly aggressive at times. But after a couple minutes, the mollies stopped surrounding the archerfish and they started to swim around. Now you see, archerfish basically spend all their time at the top of the water, and they do this for a very special reason. That's because archerfish's special ability is they're able to spit a little stream out of the water into the air, specifically to knock types of bugs into the water so they can eat them. It's absolutely crazy, and I just had to try it with these guys, so I got out a cricket onto my hand and just kind of held it above the water. I held it there for a few minutes, and the closest one got was this archerfish, who was just sitting right under my hand. But I guess he couldn't see the cricket moving or anything, because he didn't even try to spit water at it.
Well, shoot, none of the archerfish are trying to eat this thing right now. But I do actually have a video about a year ago I posted about the 7 weirdest fish, where I actually showed the archerfish shooting. And as you can see, it's super cool and super satisfying once it actually does. And yeah, they just basically gulp the cricket out the water once they land it in. It's very cool. But anyways, now it's time for the 4th and final fish species, which is right here. And in fact, it's actually not a fish at all.
These are brine shrimp, and in fact, they're actually not meant to be kept as pets at all, because they actually live in salt water. But many aquarium owners will use these guys as a food source for their fish because they're very nutritious. And so I just had to try and feed some of my new fishies. So I poured the brine shrimp into a water gun, and yes, I did have to put them inside a water gun. I couldn't find any syringes or anything to suck them up with. But anyways, I started to just shoot the water gun into the water. And every time I shot it, you can see a few of these little white specks came out of the stream. These are the brine shrimp. And after I started to shoot the gun a little closer to some of the fish, at first you can tell they were kind of scared and probably thought I was trying to attack them or something. In fact, it took a couple minutes before I noticed the first fish starting to eat the shrimp. But oh boy, was this fish absolutely loving it. He was just going around gulping up shrimp after shrimp. I guess they're just super tasty to the fish, because over time, pretty much every fish ended up getting their fair share of this food. Alright, and now I've saved my favorite video of 2025 for last. In it, I bought the craziest spider species and answered the most interesting questions about them. Check it out. How much weight can a spider web actually hold? Obviously, they hold flies, but what about a pen? A water bottle? A dumbbell?
Well, I went out and bought the spider that makes the strongest webs in the world to be able to go and test it.
And without wasting any time, I let the spider loose into this massive enclosure with tons of anchor points all over the wall to ensure an enormous web could be built in here. You see, these are called golden silk orb weavers, and their silk is so strong that it's said that the military literally studied it to learn how to make bulletproof vests. Yeah, these guys are the real deal. So while we wait for this massive web to be constructed, I also want to test questions like, what is the coolest spider species? Can spiders walk on water? And tons of other fun spider questions, starting with, what is a trapdoor spider?
Basically, the answer is they're one of the most insane animals you'll ever see.
And I instantly dropped it into a little enclosure I built for it. You see, they're called trapdoor spiders because they build trapdoors. Basically, over the course of a few hours, they dig out a hole in the ground. Then they coat the inside of that hole with a special kind of silk they produce that allows it to essentially turn into a functional trapdoor that they can surprise prey with. And while I wasn't able to catch mine building the trapdoor, the next morning I came back to find this area looking pretty different. And based off of this suspicious moss and silk tripwires, I'm pretty sure the spider set up his trapdoor right here.
So I suspect if I put a cricket in, the spider will jump out of the trapdoor to eat it.
Immediately, the cricket got to walking around, and this enclosure isn't super big, so it wasn't long until the cricket was right next to the trapdoor. Now, you see these silk lines. Like I said earlier, they are tripwires that are directly connected down to where the spider is located. So if something were to touch one of these tripwires, the spider would instantaneously know exactly where to strike. And well, guys, it is insane to see this, because like 20 seconds later, the cricket walked over the trapdoor onto the tripwire, and the cricket is now it's just gone. Check out that instant replay. Oh my gosh. The fact that the spider is just born with the ability to know to do this is so insane. And if you thought that was cool, while we wait for our golden silk orb weaver to make the strongest web in the world, I still have way more fun spider questions, with the next one being, can spiders walk on water? Yeah, you might be thinking, heck no, Terra Green, are you stupid? If a spider walked on water, it would just fall in and drown. But I think I actually found a spider species that actually can walk on water. And I've heard they can also do tons of other crazy stuff. So I built it up the perfect environment with both a water and a land area to get this experiment started. Now, I very carefully let the spider loose because obviously, as you can tell, it's extremely large and creepy. And while I have a whole channel about keeping the weirdest pets, I'm still kind of scared of spiders. But eventually, the spider ended up crawling out of the container. All right, now that he's out of that container and on the land section, hopefully he now goes and walks in the water. Let me see if maybe I can move him over there. I don't want to. Oh. He's doing it. Yep, and just like that, the spider started to defy the laws of physics, kinda. I know it looks like the spider is just sort of floating on top of the water, but it actually has completely perfect control to be able to walk around on top, just like it was solid ground. Yeah, it's actually insane, but these spiders are able to do this because of their legs, which are covered with these super tiny water-repellent hairs that make them buoyant on top of the water. But these guys didn't just evolve to walk on the water for nothing. They did it so they could hunt where no other spider could. While most normal spiders just sit on a web all day waiting for the prey to come to them, these guys are active hunters and instead are able to pick up the slightest vibrations in the water to know exactly where the stuff is to attack it. So I want to see if this fishing spider will try and dive under the water for some crickets. This should be very interesting. I've heard crickets are these guys' super favorite food, if that makes sense. Yeah, they really like them though. Yeah, now I was going to try and take my time with this, but you see I accidentally dropped the cricket in, and right away the fishing spider went insane and pounced on it without wasting a single second, and the cricket was now just straight up in the fangs of this insane predator. But I didn't really get a good view of it attacking the cricket, so what I actually did was took the cricket from the spider so I could see if I could get the shot one more time. And this time the spider once again pounced onto the cricket as soon as it saw it, and obviously it's pretty creepy and you can see those legs moving. It's very scary actually, but you could see from under the water the cricket had no chance of escape, and it was now getting eaten as the spider walked up onto the land to finish eating it there. All right. I'm super excited about the next question because it is, what is the most camouflage spider species? And well, guys, I think I found it. I got it. It's right in here. But before I could take it out of this container, I quickly built up its enclosure. And yep, literally all we need is just some sand, and that is it. These are one of the most resilient and simple spiders in the entire world. And let's open this. Now you may notice that I was being extremely ultra careful with opening this, and that's because this species is one of the most venomous creatures on the planet. Like, period. And if it bit me, there'd be a high likelihood I wouldn't make it. But thankfully, that didn't happen because the spider started to climb out of the paper towel and then onto the sand. Now, these are called six-eyed sand spiders. And you may be wondering, bruh, Terra Green, how the heck is this thing camouflaged at all? Well, you see, these guys are able to camouflage by doing this. Once they find a good spot where the sand is nice and loose, they start to kick sand on top of themselves and bury themselves under it to hide here for basically 99% of its life. Now, it may not technically be camouflage, but this ability does an amazing job at hiding it. And I mean, even its legs just look like tiny little sticks poking out the sand. This does not look like a spider. And like other predators that use their camouflage abilities to hunt, these spiders are no different. And as soon as they detect motion, they will jump out of the floor. So let's feed this thing a cricket. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you would have no idea that that is literally one of the most venomous things in the world. Anyways, I went and dropped the cricket inside, and immediately he got to running around the enclosure. But little did he know, right under his feet was his doom. Well, kinda, because I thought right away the spider was gonna pop out, but the cricket actually was just straight up walking on top of the spider, and the spider just didn't care. But I think it's because this cricket was a little bit big for the spider, so a little bit later I came back with a smaller cricket, as you can see. And well, as you can also see, this time the spider did not waste a single second to pounce onto this cricket. Nah, look at this instant replay. Imagine if that was my finger. And well, I guess this spider is gonna enjoy his very tasty meal now. Nice. All right, now it's time for question number 4, which is what spider is the most like Spider-Man?
Yeah, might sound funny, but the answer is definitely the thing in this container. Because you know how Spider-Man can shoot long-ranged webs out of his wrists? Well, this spider species can also shoot long-ranged webs, and it's pretty crazy.
These are called long-legged spitting spiders. And as you can see, they look pretty weird because they have a massive head. You see, most spiders have their silk glands, which are the things that make silk, in their abdomen. And that's why that area is so big. But these guys got their silk glands in their head because they need to be able to shoot webs out of their mouth. But in order for them to be able to do that, they gotta go and set up a little area in their tank. So I put my spider in a tank and he started to walk around, climbed up some sticks and stuff. And when I came back a little bit later, there was a little web made at the top of the enclosure. This means he was now settled in and he is ready to attack some prey.
All right, now that the spider went and made a web somewhere at the top of the enclosure, I'm gonna put in some crickets like always. And I know it's kind of a lot, but hopefully one of these guys gets shot by some webs. Let's go.
So I put them in, and while most of the crickets were kind of just walking around the grassy floor area, this one cricket started to climb up this stick that led directly to where the spitting spider was. The cricket then crawled right next to the spider, waking him up, which probably angered the spider, causing the spider to shoot his web directly onto the cricket, completely gluing him to the wall, making sure the cricket would never be able to move again. You see, not only does this web shot completely immobilize the prey, just like Spider-Man can do, but also because the web shots come from the head, it's infused with the spider's venom, meaning the web that's covering this cricket's body is seeping venom into it, which makes it even easier for the spider to consume it. And as you can see, that's exactly what the spider did. Very nice. Now the next question is, what is the cutest spider in the world?
And yes, there is a good reason I'm testing this. You'll see what I mean. But anyways, I got the cutest spider right in here.
They're called jumping spiders, and I mean, just look at them. While every other spider is evil and just straight up nasty looking, these guys are super fluffy and they got all these little cute eyes, arms, and everything about them is just lovely. Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
In fact, these spiders are so cute, they literally made an entire animated show about them called Lucas the Spider. And dang, this is pretty entertaining, but also it's not very accurate because if this is real, the spider would definitely be eating the fly.
Because even though these guys are so cute, they're called jumping spiders because of their insane ability to jump towards prey and eat them whole. Yeah, they probably aren't so cute to the prey. So you already know, I got a little home built for this guy. I went and put him inside, and I got out a cricket to feed him.
Yeah, but this cricket is pretty big for the jumping spider. So if it's able to eat this thing, that'll just show how insane they are despite being super duper cute.
Now what I did was immediately showed the jumping spider the cricket to let him know it was feeding time. And while I was showing it to him, you could see he was actually being pretty nice and wasn't just straight up attacking it. Actually was kind of backing off. So I decided to let the cricket loose, and a little later I noticed the cricket was standing literally right next to the spider. And yeah, the jumping spider just wasn't eating it for some reason. Dang, maybe that little animation I was watching was accurate, and maybe jumping spiders are actually very friendly. Or maybe mine was just not hungry right now. Actually, that probably is what it is.
But I think I'm just gonna leave that cricket in there so when the jumping spider gets hungry, it will do that, basically. Yeah, as you can tell in this footage, it's pretty cool to watch them eat. But anyways, the real reason why I wanted to get the cutest spider in the world is because many of you know that my mom is absolutely petrified of spiders.
Oh my god!
Yeah, one time I showed her a tarantula and she was just not happy.
Matt?
So hopefully this will help change your mind. Mom, can you come in here? Yo, hello there.
Hi, bud.
So I just brought you in because I know you hate spiders, right? You do hate spiders?
Yes.
So basically I just wanted to show you that I got the most venomous spider in the world.
What?
Yeah, right? No, I'm just kidding. It's the cutest spider in the world because I want to cure your fear of spiders.
Oh my gosh.
And as you can see, he's super friendly because he just, he can crawl on my arm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can see its face and I can see like red furry. No.
You want to get a closer look?
No.
And they're actually called jumping spiders because they're able to jump.
No.
So hopefully he doesn't jump on you.
No.
I'm just gonna go and put him back inside of his home. There you go. Okay, so did that cure your fear of spiders?
Ooh, absolutely not.
Oh, dang it.
Well, I guess it was worth a shot. One day I will cure her fear of spiders. But anyways, now it's time to test the final question. How much weight can a spider web hold?
So if you remember, I went and put that spider inside of this massive enclosure. And for me, that was about a week ago. And since putting the spider inside of here, all he's pretty much done is spun some web at the back left corner and the back right corner. And yeah, he hasn't made a massive web in the middle.
You see, spiders that make massive webs like this can take weeks in captivity to feel comfortable enough to do it. Just because the environment environment is totally different from the wild. Now, I usually would just keep waiting, but I had a flight to catch in 2 days to record another banger video for you guys. So instead, to be able to answer this question, the next morning I had to drive out to a trail bright and early in the morning to be able to find some spider webs in the wild myself. And guys, I brought the backpack so we can test a bunch of items in the spider webs to see what is the heaviest item they can hold. Now, after I found this first pretty tiny spider web, I got out the backpack to take out the lightest item to test the weight of: crickets. Which obviously you can see this web is able to hold it just fine. Webs like this are literally designed to be able to hold insects. You see, even just this is impressive, because if these spiders were scaled up to how big humans were, it'd basically be the equivalent to a human being able to make a web that could hold 125 pounds, based on some complex math, which I'm not gonna go into. All right, but we knew that was gonna be able to hold a cricket. Our next item we got to test though is a $20 bill, which actually weighs double the amount as what a cricket weighs. And also it's a lot bigger, so let's see if a bigger web can hold this. Like I said, this web is a bit bigger and it should be able to hold this even though the weight is double the amount. And after kind of finding the right place to balance it, boom, just like that, the $20 looks like it's just floating there, but it's actually being held by the web. And when ranked on our human scalability, that money is the equivalent to a human making a web that could hold 250 pounds. We're getting heavier. But the next item is this empty pen casing, which is 5 times more heavy than that money. Now, if you're wondering how the web handled against this, well, you'd probably be surprised that it actually held without too much of a problem at all. Meaning this is basically the equivalent to a human web holding over 1,000 pounds. Now, we're getting heavy. And now the last item I've got is a water bottle, which is obviously a lot heavier and also a lot bigger than all the other stuff I've tested. And I know it's not a dumbbell like I said at the start, but hey, I'm not trying to just destroy this web.
There are billions of lizards alive across the world, but out of all of them, one species stands out as unique.
What the hell, what?
Chameleons. You see, chameleons have the ability to be bred to have extremely rare color patterns, like a literal rainbow. But I just came across the rarest color variation that I have never seen before. This beautiful red and blue chameleon that literally looks like a Nintendo Switch. Just to represent how rare this is, let's say there's a billion lizards on Earth and about 1,000 of those are a chameleon with this exact color morph. That would mean there is a 0.0000001% chance of this existing. And sure, it may cost $899, but this is gonna easily be one of my coolest pets ever. And once I get it, I'll show off some special abilities of chameleons that many of you have probably never seen before. But it's gonna take a few days until it gets shipped out to my house. So in the meantime, I probably should build up an enclosure for the chameleon with everything it could possibly need to live an amazing life. And of course, to build that, I'm gonna need the giant 120-gallon terrarium and hundreds of dollars worth of supplies. But to start the build, the only thing we actually need is some dead leaves and bark. You see, to make the floor for a chameleon, you don't want to use normal materials like dirt. This is because chameleons have these special tongues that when they're shot out, they'll pick up stuff like dirt on the floor and eat it, which will make the chameleon sick. Yeah, I don't want that to happen. So even though this floor is super simple, it's actually perfect. But of course, the rare Nintendo Switch chameleon I'm getting is gonna need a lot more than this in his enclosure. Yeah, this is just definitely not enough. So for step number 2, I got a whole bunch of wooden branches. Now, as you can see, I installed these 2 metal bars going across the enclosure, which I'll start by covering in the branches I have. I made sure to make the branches reach all along the top of the enclosure, the bottom, the sides, and literally everywhere. And after they were secured in place with zip ties and foam, I covered up most of that ugly stuff with some moss and leaves. So it doesn't look like a 5-year-old made this anymore. I also got a bunch of these vine things, which are basically these long bendable rubber sticks that recreate the look of jungle vines, and they curve all around the enclosure. Okay, if I'm being honest, this does look a little bit cluttered and messy right now, but trust me, coming up in this video, I got some stuff planned that's gonna make this, you know, actually look good and be an actually good enclosure. And plus, all these branches and vines are actually very necessary to allow the chameleon to climb and swing around the entire enclosure. And don't worry, guys, because I'll be getting plants to cover up these big ugly foam things in the corner. Speaking of plants, I should probably put some in here since that's the next step to finishing this amazing home. But I don't have any right now, so I'm gonna go to the plant store. Now, of course, I drove to Walmart, as always, to buy my plants. And the plant section was actually amazing this time. I mean, they had a way better selection than they usually do. Just look at all of them. Oh my gosh, are you guys seeing this? $15 for this giant plant. Okay, that is actually a super good deal. You're only gonna see deals like that at Walmart. That is why I come here, guys. So I picked out all the plants the rare chameleon could possibly want and brought them home. Alright, so obviously I've got plants now, but you'd be stupid if you think I'm just gonna put these straight into the enclosure. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm going to make these plants way, way better. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna make them look extra cool with some animal-safe red and blue paint. Yeah, I'm gonna paint these plant pots to be the same color as the chameleon I'm getting. I don't know why, I just think it'll look cool, okay? Yeah, I did this on every plant pot. It took forever. But after letting the paint dry for a few hours, I started to scatter the plants along the floor and sides of the enclosure. And in no time, I was done. And check this out. This looks, I mean, it looks alright. I mean, the plants and everything look fine, but maybe the blue and red pots were not the best idea. The paint kind of started to fade. It's not even blue anymore, but it's still pretty funny, and I bet the chameleon's gonna like to see some of the stuff of his same color. So, anyways, I gotta get to the next step. Let's just go to the next step right now. Let's go to the next step. Okay, anyways, on the to-do list, there's 2 more steps to make this a chameleon dream home, starting with some basic technology. And what this means is I've got a bunch of technology like this light bulb, which is necessary, but to be honest, it's nothing special. This light bulb in specific generates heat, and as you can see right in the basking spot under the heat lamp, it reaches up to 90 degrees, which is perfect. And of course, in a cooler part of the enclosure, it reaches about 70 degrees, so the chameleon won't get too hot or nothing. You know, we don't want the chameleon to get heat stroke. But another basic technology you need is a long UVB light bulb, which recreates the same UV rays the sun does. And basically, this lets the chameleon get vitamin D or something. It's pretty complex biology stuff, but it's very important. And finally, I set up a simple water misting system, which, you know, you just press a button and it starts spraying water all around the enclosure. Yeah, pretty simple, but it's very necessary. Okay, well, now that the boring technology is over, let's get some fun, custom, advanced technology in this enclosure. At the start, I got this big, cool blue thing. You see, earlier at Walmart, I saw these toys that were apparently made by the YouTuber Mr. Beast. And, you know, I love Mr. Beast, so I bought this egg-looking one, which I had an idea for how I could use in the chameleon enclosure. So I pressed a button to open it up, and inside was, this thing. What the heck is this? Okay, I guess inside there's a Mr. Beast toy that makes that annoying noise. Well, I don't really know what I was expecting, but I guess let me just put this inside the chameleon enclosure, and there we go. If you're wondering why I put this in here, well, I was just thinking I want to give the chameleon a nice friend, and, you know, this is kind of animal looking thing, so, okay, I'm sorry, this is stupid. Let's just go to the next technology. And now next on the to-do list, this one is even cooler than the last. Alright, so for the second thing I'm adding in here, basically, I just wanted to make it look more like a home. And as you know, most homes have paintings around their house because that's just what homes have. So I'm gonna add my own custom painting inside of here. And to get the custom image made, I asked AI to make a picture of a red and blue chameleon wearing a suit. And, oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Wait, okay, we're gonna put this painting inside the chameleon's home. Oh, this is gonna be pretty cool. So I drove to the printing store and printed the image out, hoping no one around me would see me getting these stupid looking paintings. Bruh. And there we go. Check it out. This looks pretty. I mean the painting looked kind of cool, but I don't really know why I added this either. It's a little useless, but anyways, this entire enclosure is actually pretty much finished. I don't know anything else I can add to it, so I guess it's just time to add the rare red and blue chameleon inside. Let's just cut to then. So as you can see, I got the lizard right here, and I don't know what I'm doing outside. I should probably just go put him in the enclosure. So I opened up the package and immediately was amazed by its beauty. Oh my gosh, this thing looks super cool. Okay, wait, this is easily gonna be my coolest looking pet. The only thing to do was open the lid and let it crawl out when it was ready. And of course, it went straight to doing its stupid chameleon dance.
Well, what the hell, boy?
Now, as you can see, the colors on it right now are sort of darker than what they should be. And that's because currently it's a bit stressed from just getting out of the shipping container. Coming up, I'll be explaining exactly how chameleons change color and why by showing you guys this rare lizard. But for now, I want to show the amazing ability that chameleons have to hunt prey from literally across the enclosure. Now, you guys may not know this, but chameleons actually love crickets. Like literally all
all my other pets and crickets are pretty healthy for chameleons, so yeah, that's what I'm gonna be feeding him today. So I waited a few hours before putting any crickets in to allow the chameleon to adjust to his new home. And as you can see, soon enough, his color started to brighten up, and that means he's ready to hunt. Come on, crickets, get out, get out. There we go. Yeah, get out. I put a few of the crickets inside, and at first they sort of just started to mind their own business, just walking around looking for food, you know. But little did they know that they are about to become food for this guy.
Hi, how are you?
Now, the first ability chameleons have for hunting is their eyes. As you can see, both of his eyes are able to move in different directions, constantly scanning everywhere around him, in front and behind at the same time. And it wasn't long until the chameleon set one of his eyes on one of the little crickets. He started to move into attack position very slowly. Yeah, chameleons are so slow, they're basically sloths. And while this cricket thought he was safe, little did he know what was about to happen. Chameleon's second ability, their insane tongue that's over a foot long. Yeah, whenever this chameleon was within a couple feet of a cricket, it locked onto the target and shot its tongue directly towards it. And because the tongue is so sticky, it just brought the cricket in with it so it could enjoy a nice, tasty meal. And after seeing how cool it was when the chameleon hunted, I got a funny idea. Okay, see this cricket here? I'm gonna get this onto my hand like that. And then I'm literally gonna try and feed the chameleon from my hand. You can see it's right there. It just jumped off. Okay, take two. We're gonna put this right next to the chameleon's mouth. And there we go, that's the perfect spot. Eat it, bro. Eat it. I wanna see this thing eat from my hand so bad. It's literally right in front of you. Hello? You're just gonna watch it? It's crawling all around my hand. You have the perfect opportunity, and you're not doing it. And okay, I think the chameleon's just walking away at this point. I guess he doesn't really want to eat from my hand. I'm sorry, cricket, but I'm just gonna, you're gonna get eaten. Anyways, I should probably name this rare chameleon, and like I said earlier, this thing has the exact same colors as a Nintendo Switch. So I'm gonna name my chameleon Switch. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty creative name, I know. Anyways, now I'm gonna show you guys exactly how chameleons change color, and it might actually be pretty surprising to some of you. But quickly, I just want to tell you guys that since the last video, you've increased the amount of people subscribed from 5% to 6%, which is okay improvement, but let's get this to like 50%. So please, if you're enjoying this video at all, just scroll down and click subscribe. Now, anyways, you might have seen me show you guys this video of a chameleon changing colors. And while this viral video is actually very cool to watch, it is completely fake. Yeah, chameleons can't actually control their colors like that, and in reality, they only have the ability to become slightly darker or slightly brighter. This happens because it's super tiny cells in their skin that can get bigger or smaller depending on certain conditions like heat. You see, when I first put Switch in the enclosure, he immediately ran up to the heat lamp and sat under it, which made his color change to be way brighter. Anyway, Switch is very cool, and I've only just scratched the surface of chameleon care. I might even end up doing another video where I breed Switch and another rare female chameleon to get an ultra rare chameleon, so subscribe if you want to see that. But until then, this guy is gonna be an amazing pet. Thank you for watching. Anyways, I just want to quickly update all the subscribers who care about the channel. So I've seen a couple comments of people asking what I do with my pets after the videos, and the answer is with some of them, I'll end up donating them to pet shops or friends to take care of them. Since I make a ton of videos by myself, it's hard to give equal care to every single pet, so that's why I do that. But if you're wondering, during the day, there's tons of rocks, which when you flip them, you find cool little bugs like this. But you see, if you wait until night to flip rocks, you're able to find way crazier nocturnal animals like glowing scorpions, giant tarantulas, and so much more that you would have never found during the day.
So hey, it's night. I traveled out to an insane trail that is known for having the craziest nocturnal animals. Let's get to flipping object number one.
And I'm not kidding, literally on this first rock flip, I found a little California scorpion, which you may already know have the ability to glow in the dark under UV light. Yeah, pretty much every nocturnal animal has some crazy ability, and in this video, I'm gonna be finding way more insane stuff. Anyways, I went to flip rock number 2, and right underneath was a little spider web with a poor innocent ant trapped inside. So I figured I'd try and help the ant out of the web before a spider came to eat him, but that's when I saw that the ant's movement was being really weird, and it was twitching everywhere. That's when I realized that this ant's head was missing. Yeah, I have no idea how this thing is even moving without a brain even connected to its body, but I guess the spider, which at first you may see nothing, but if you take a closer look, this is a tarantula burrow with the biggest tarantula I've ever found while rock flipping. Since tarantulas like this are nocturnal, you basically never get to see them eat, so since it's night, this is the perfect time to test its eating ability. So I took out the backpack to get something important. It's the new Terra Green activity book. Yeah, I just released this new book with hours of fun animal activities with the first 100 even hand-signed. I'll show you more later, but let's get out what I actually meant to grab from the backpack, a crickets and tweezers. And instantly, I brought the cricket right over to the tarantula's mouth. And yeah, in my last rock flipping video, I tried the same exact thing with no luck of it eating. But this tarantula was clearly much more receptive since it was night and grabbed the cricket straight from my tweezers.
Oh my gosh, he just absolutely devoured that cricket.
And I promise you, that's still just the start of the crazy animals I'm finding on this trail, because under rock number 9, there was actually something pretty interesting. It wasn't big or anything, it was just this little spider. But what caught my attention was his abdomen, because it looked like an eye. Seriously, it just looks like an eye off of some sort of snake species. Imagine when this spider grows bigger and sets up a web in the trees, it's just gonna look like a menacing eye staring down at you, especially at night. That's gotta be creepy. Anyways, as I kept on walking, I got to object 14, and underneath was this little white thing. It's an oak toad, and it's actually pretty dang cute. And right next to this white oak toad was a darker brown oak toad, which if you didn't know, this is the smallest toad species in all of America, and since they're pretty unique, I just had to take out the backpack. And once again, I pulled out some crickets, but this time they're a bit smaller, so these toads will hopefully be able to eat them. So I tried dropping in a few first near the white toad, and he didn't seem very interested. He kind of just hid under the dirt, so I tried putting some crickets by the brown toad, and he just started running away full speed and also wasn't hungry. However, while that was happening, I saw this little ant walk by, and in his mouth was just some massive green worm. I guess he was bringing this back to the colony. Good catch, bro. The queen's gonna be proud of you. And the next rock that I flipped that had something interesting was this. At first, all I saw was another one of those little eye spider things, but as I was getting a closer look at it, out of the corner of my eye, I saw this. A little garter snake burrow. And yep, there was just a snake curled up in there. These guys aren't nocturnal, so this guy was probably just sleeping in here and I just woke him up. Thankfully, they're not venomous though, which I know because in the new Terra Green activity book, there's tons of fun facts. And on this page, it shows all the differences between venomous and non-venomous snakes, and after comparing them, I could tell that if this guy bit me, it would be completely fine. There's no venom. Okay, well the snake clearly doesn't want to be disturbed, so let me go and put his rock back and let's keep exploring. And right after walking away, I came across this rock, which had a queen ant under it. It looks like her first worker had just hatched and it was helping the queen with the rest of the eggs. It's crazy to think that every massive colony with thousands of workers starts like this. So I put the rock back, so hopefully this colony can grow that large. Anyways, as I kept on traveling, the next good rock flip was this, because underneath was a super creepy bug. At first, it was running around super fast, and I couldn't really get a good look at it, but eventually when it stood still, I could tell this was a house centipede, which usually live in houses, hence their name. So I guess this guy escaped into the forest, and yeah, they're just so creepy.
I mean, it's got the head of a cricket, as many legs as a centipede, obviously. And I don't know, it's just like some mutant creature, basically. Oh my gosh, it's so fast.
Yeah, it's basically an alien creature. And speaking of alien creatures, under the very next rock, I found this. It's an ant colony. But what actually caught my attention was right over to the side. This thing. You see, I actually found one of these in my first rock flipping video, but I never really got a good look at it since it was buried in the ground. Well, here it is outside of the ground. It's a Jerusalem cricket, and they are so weird looking. I don't know what it is, but just like seeing this thing walk around creeps me out. I feel like it's gonna jump on me or something. For a little while, as I continued down the trail, I was flipping tons of rocks and kinda just wasn't finding anything cool. So I actually got a good idea that led to something insane. Bro, this must just be like the bad luck area. I swear, there's literally nothing. But I actually have a really good idea with something in the backpack. You see, in here, I've actually packed this thing, which is a thermal camera. And if there's animals out here, this thing's definitely gonna be able to track it. That's all I'll say. Basically, a thermal camera picks up heat in the environment, which allows me to see animals during the night. So I started to just go around, pointing it in random directions and putting it under rocks. But as I was doing that, I saw something red appear on the camera. So I looked at what was in front of me and I realized that this was an absolutely insane find. It was an antlion larva. If you don't know what these are, they're basically these little insects that dig out circular traps in the floor specifically designed to trap ants. And when an unsuspecting ant walks in, the antlion makes an attack. And as you can see here, I found an antlion attacking an ant live in person. The antlion was throwing dirt up at the ant as it tried to escape. They do this to try and knock the ant back in inside and make it super hard to escape. But I guess this antlion didn't dig a big enough hole because the ant was able to escape.
Bro, I didn't even know these guys lived in deserts. I thought they only lived in forests. That's so crazy.
But yeah, once antlion larvae eat enough ants, they basically evolve like a lion. Yeah, probably a few weeks ago, this used to be one of those tiny larvas, but now it has wings, and in fact, it was actually sticking the back of its abdomen in the dirt, laying eggs. Yeah, this antlion was completing its life's purpose and restarting its life cycle, which a very similar life cycle process is all laid out in the new Terra activity book, with even a fun activity at the bottom that lets you design your very own flying insect. Anyways, as I kept on traveling down the trail, I found something super creepy, because under this rock was a beetle. Now you may think that's nothing special, but after giving it a little tap to see its response, I realized that this beetle was long gone. In fact, if you remember that decapitated ant with no head from earlier, well, this beetle had the same exact thing, and his head was only a few inches away, just sitting on the floor.
Bro, what is going around in this forest decapitating all the insects? That's so weird. Okay, hopefully I can find whatever's doing that, because it's gotta be crazy.
A few objects later, I found 3 little millipedes just chilling around. I'm sure you already know this, but millipedes are cool because they got 1,000 tiny little legs that almost make it look like they're slithering around when they walk. Before these guys, I actually took out the backpack, and inside I got out some paintbrushes. I know, seems weird, but just bear with me, because using paintbrushes, I wanted to show millipedes' defense mechanism, which usually activates when you rub them, but I was rubbing this millipede with the paintbrush for like a while, and it was just having a good time continuing to walk. So I went and did the same thing to his friend, and pretty much instantly, this guy did what he was supposed to and rolled up into a ball, which keeps them safe from potential danger.
Okay, that was what was supposed to happen. I don't know why this guy is just kind of refusing to roll up into a ball.
Yeah, I guess this guy had a glitch in the system, or maybe he was just enjoying some free back scratches. I don't know. Anyways, the reason I love this trail so much is because at this point in it, the environment starts to switch from a forest into a desert, meaning I just unlocked an entire new pool of desert animals. And literally under the first rock flip of this new environment, I found a desert hairy scorpion, which is the largest in all of America. And obviously, it was much bigger than the one I found at the start of the video.
Now, as you guys know, scorpions are able to glow under UV light, like I showed earlier in the video, which of course, even the desert ones, they glow too. But I actually have something fun that I want to go and try and test with this guy.
From the backpack, I got out crickets and tweezers. I know, I'm feeding crickets again, but this was easily the coolest feeding experience I've had in a rock flipping video. Because at first, I put the cricket up to the scorpion's mouth, and he grabbed it with his pinchers and kind of just held it for a second.
Dang, he really just took the cricket from me. He's just holding it now. Bro, are you gonna eat it? Don't just leave the cricket in your claws. I bet that hurts the cricket, bro.
So I took it from him and gave him another chance to eat it. This time, he used both of his pinchers to get a really good grip on it. Then he slowly moved his stinger up to it and gave it a little tap. These guys' venom isn't deadly to humans, but to little crickets like this guy, it'll completely paralyze him while the scorpion eats. Now, I wanted to show you guys this super zoomed in footage because basically scorpions use their little mouthpieces to rip open their food until juice starts to leak out. Then they suck the juice up, and you can literally see the juice fill up his head as he ate it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then he kind of just started to walk around with the cricket in his mouth and no hands. Dang, bro, cool. Hope you enjoy the food. A few rock clips later, I ended up finding this. It was an ant colony, but they were super tiny. But what stood out to me was the fact that they almost all had wings, which is pretty rare. All of these winged ants are called elates, and basically they're born only once a year. It looks like they were getting ready for their annual nuptial flight, and probably when the morning comes, they're all gonna fly away, find other colonies of elates so they can mate with, and after they're done mating, the males die, and the females tear off their wings to start their own colony. It's pretty cool to see. As I continued on down the trail, I flipped to this, and found some blue death veining beetles. Not only are these guys pretty big and look super cool with their blue exoskeleton, but they have a crazy special ability to develop a kind of wax on their body that acts as a sunscreen. And they do this because the heat can obviously get pretty hot in desert environments, and this sunscreen they produce just allows them to thrive while other animals have to take breaks from getting too hot. But one of my favorite desert animals in the world was found under this rock. It's a velvet ant, but on YouTube, they're known as cow killers. I've made videos about keeping these guys as pets, and yeah, it said their sting is strong enough to kill a literal cow. I don't know if that's true, but I'm not gonna test it.
But there's actually something I want to test with this guy. Because you see, if we get out the Terra activity book and go over to the desert section, you can see it says cow killers make a squeaky sound when threatened. And yeah, I kind of use this book as like a handbook, but I've never actually seen a cow killer do that. So let's test it with this guy.
Using some tweezers, I picked it up, and don't worry, this doesn't hurt it at all because its exoskeleton is like a rock and basically is impossible to squish. While holding it, you could see the little stinger extend out of the back of the abdomen, but then I started to hear it squeak. As you can see, they're able to repeatedly contract their abdomen to make this squeaky sound when threatened. And honestly, I don't really know why they do this, because if I was a predator, this squeak would not deter me. I think they should just stick to using their insane stinger as a deterrence method. The next object I flipped had something I've never seen before. It's a camel spider. Probably the most creepiest, most disgustingest creature in all of the desert. I mean, it's a spider that almost looks like a scorpion and has a mouth of like an evil demon. But I know these guys from a video I was flipping. I was finding some more scorpions, which obviously I made all glow. I even found this baby scorpion next to an adult scorpion, and I don't know if this is the kid or something, but I do know scorpions have some of the most interesting ways to raise babies. Because once the moms give birth, all of the like 20 baby scorpions will latch onto the back of her and just chill there for up to 20 days. Very cool. Since deserts are super dry, you find a lot less of the tiny little bugs that I was finding in the forest, so a lot of the final rock flips just straight up had nothing. And I got all the way to rock 100, and when I flipped it, thankfully there was actually something, and I mean something insane. This is a wolf spider, which in itself is not actually that rare. I found a ton of them in the forest section that I just didn't end up showing since they were kind of small, but this guy was massive, like almost as big as that tarantula from the start of the video. And I've heard big wolf spiders like this are so cool to watch hunt, so I got crickets out one final time. I go and try and feed one to the wolf spider. Okay, I'm just gonna drop it. Oh shoot, he just ambushed that. Oh my gosh, that's brutal. That happened in like half a second. Yeah, crickets are definitely not a fan of the Terra Green channel because every time I bring them on, they end up in a wolf spider's mouth or something. But if 1,000 ants had to fight a black widow, what would actually happen? Would the spider's venom come out on top, or would the sheer number of ants overwhelm her? Well, in this video, I'm gonna test ants against that and tons of other interesting scenarios to see how strong ants really are. The only problem is I don't have 1,000 ants. And I bought the most expensive shipping option to make sure the ants would arrive without any dying during the shipping.
Oh, I am so excited. As long as I get a good species, it's gonna be so fun to watch these go against the black widow and everything else I have planned for them.
Anyways, I brought them to the recording area and opened up the package, and I was kind of surprised by what I found.
Nah, are they in here? Oh my gosh, okay, there actually is like 1,000. Okay, at least I didn't get scammed.
Since they were in a pill bottle, I couldn't really get a good look at them, so I got a clear container and dumped them all inside. Instantly, you could now see the true scale of what 1,000 ants actually looks like. And at least, I think it's 1,000. I'm not counting all these guys. And after analyzing the species, I realized that these were harvester ants, which are equipped with venomous stingers and massive mandibles, meaning yes, this was actually going to be a very interesting video with everything I was going to test.
Now, for these 1,000 ants to be able to fight a black widow, we first need to get them in a nest. And well, everyone say hello to the Terra jar. It's like Terra Green, except I replaced the green with a jar. Anyways, let me go and dump all these guys in here. Feed free, everyone. This is way bigger than that tiny pill bottle you were in.
Right away, you could see the ants starting to move around on top of the soil. Now, you might be thinking that this isn't enough space for the ants. Well, it actually is, because this is specifically designed for the ants to dig out tunnels all along the sides of the glass. And as the video progresses, we're gonna see their nest get crazier and crazier. And yeah, most of the ants were kind of going crazy trying to climb up the glass, but after leaving them alone for only a few hours, you could see they were already starting to construct their tunnel system. Each of the worker ants would pick up singular grains of sand from the tunnels, walk up to the surface, drop the sand, and go back down to repeat the process. And when you have 1,000 ants, you can see they dig out a pretty good amount in only just an hour of this time-lapse footage.
Oh yeah, it's sick to see the ants already starting to build their nest, and it should be fully dug out by the end of the video. Anyways, as you know, I'll be putting these guys to the test against a black widow. But before then, I have all of these different training activities to prepare the ants for the final spider boss. Second up, we're gonna see how fast they can take down some prey. Yup. We've got a cricket. Oh my gosh, crickets hate me, and sorry buddy, you are gonna be, well, I guess you guys will just see what's about to happen.
And well, right after dropping the cricket in, literally within like a nanosecond, the ants were swarming it. I thought it would only take like a couple minutes, but no, this cricket was already pinned down, getting venom injected into him. As I said earlier, each of these ants is equipped with a venomous stinger that is obviously not super deadly to humans, but to crickets, when there's like 20 ants repeatedly stinging you, you're kind of done for. Yep, ants don't play around when there's a threat near their nest, and you can see over the next 30 minutes, the cricket stayed completely surrounded by the ants. ants. And I'm guessing they already started to rip its antennas off and stuff to get a tasty meal to spread with the rest of the colony. Dang, that was cool to watch. Anyways, it's getting late, so I think I'm gonna go and put this bucket on top of the ants so it's dark for them. And I'm gonna go to sleep, and hopefully when I wake up, there's gonna be tons more tunnels. Anyways, yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning. And over those next 10 hours, the ants made their tunnels so much larger and more intricate than before. And on the back, they even had tunnels all the way down at the bottom, with ants actively walking about the whole system. Anyway, ants, it's 8 a.m., and that means it's time. As you can see, the alarm's going off. It's time for challenge number 3. Let's get these ants trained even more. For this training, I have to pick up one unlucky ant and transport him to the antlion pit. If you don't know what an antlion is, well, this is it. It's just a tiny little bug that has actually evolved over millions of years to be an expert at taking down ants. Basically, when you go and put them on the floor, they start to dig themselves under the ground, and then they just go around digging. And I have 9 more of these guys, which I spread across the whole tank. And as you can see, they all dig around, making these little lines in the ground. But after waiting a few hours, you can see that each of the ant lions had actually dug out their own little pits in the ground, and when an ant walks into the bottom of them, they're basically cooked. All right, ant, I'm gonna put you right at the start, and at the end, I'm gonna put some breadcrumbs so you can bring back to the colony if you survive this. And without further ado, I let the ant loose. Let's see if he can get the bread to feed the colony. Immediately, he started to explore around the sand area. He had no idea that he was constantly walking near these pits of death. And eventually, he took a wrong step and stumbled inside of one. These pits are specifically designed to make the ants trip into them, but the antlion at the bottom must have been sleeping or something, because nothing happened and the ant was just able to walk out. But if you look closely, this caused the antlion to wake up. He was now active and armed, with his mandibles now throwing up sand in case the ant walked in again. And over the next few minutes, the ant did just that. He kept walking inside of the pit, but the antlion just could never quite snap on the ant at the right time. Well, that was until this. You see, this is paused footage, but basically if we unpause it, you can see exactly what happens when an antlion gets a hold of the ant. The antlion started to bring the ant underground, and within a few seconds, it was like there was never anything even here. I thought it was over, and you could tell by the sand moving that the ant was getting pulled further and further underground. But all of a sudden, I saw this. A little bit of the ant's head had poked out of the ground. He somehow was fighting back, and must have been using its stinger to try and escape. I immediately rushed back and recorded with my other camera, and what I saw was so weird. The ant had somehow made it out from under the sand, but it wasn't trying to escape. In fact, it was using its front legs to try and dig back under the ground.
Bro, what the heck? Why is this ant digging like a dog? He's literally using his front legs to dig in the sand where he almost just got killed. Bro, this guy's crazy. Nah, bro, if you want to be eaten by an antlion that bad, I will gladly put you right there. Have fun, buddy. And right after putting him in this pit, this antlion also woke up and eventually snapped at the ant. And it once again started to pull him underground. But miraculously, this ant was able to fight back once again and somehow broke free, immediately ran out of the hole and straight over to the breadcrumbs to claim his prize. Nah, this ant tricked me to have me move him closer to the bread, and now he somehow won the challenge. Nah, bro, there is something up with these ants. I'm being dead serious. How on earth did he escape the antlion pit over here? And how on earth did he escape this one and then know to go to the bread? And now is trying to bring bread back to the colony. Bro, well played. You survived. I'll bring you and all the bread back to the colony. So I brought it all over to the nest, and the entire colony was clearly super excited because they all swarmed the bread and started taking little pieces of it underground. Anyways, I went and waited a few hours and came back to find the nest even bigger once again. The ants still are not done with their training sessions, and next up, we gotta see if they can survive some Venus flytraps for some food. So I immediately picked up some of the workers to bring them to the flytrap minefield, completely decked out with tons of Venus flytrap plants. For the food on this obstacle, we got a gorilla. I'm just kidding. I don't know why it's packaged in this. Basically what it is just a bunch of oats, and I'm just gonna feed these to the ants. Let's put them inside. You see, each Venus flytrap has these tiny little trigger hairs inside of them, and when something touches them, it causes them to close. And if I carefully put the oats in between the hairs without hitting any of them, I can basically just put the food in here, which will make the ants have to carry them out. But it was actually pretty hard to get the oats perfectly inside, so I ended up just spreading the oats everywhere around the tank. All right, let's see how the ants do in here. I have a feeling they're not gonna do too well, but yeah, we'll see. Immediately, the ants had started to swarm out the tube that I put them in, and they were probably really confused of why they were all just transported away from their nest. And for a little while, they kind of just walked around, investigating their new environment.
That was until a couple minutes later, where this first ant walked up to a Venus flytrap plant. He probably had no idea that these plants were basically alive and wanted to eat him whole. Thankfully though, this guy was able to walk out of the plants without triggering any of the traps. However, a few minutes later, this ant walked up to another one of the plants, and well, this time all I'll say is he wasn't as lucky. Surprisingly, he wasn't super attracted to the oats, but it did seem like he may have been attracted to the traps themselves. You see, Venus flytraps create a very thin layer of nectar around the lip of the jaws to lure insects in. And eventually, this ant ended up, well, walking into one, hitting a trigger hair, and just like that, he was now stuck inside of the jaws. As you can see, the ant was just walking around inside trying to escape, and he had no idea what to do. Too bad for this guy. This trap is going to release a type of acid over the next few days to basically just turn him into some nutrients to make the plant even stronger. Now, interestingly enough, pretty much all the ants I had put inside were staying away from the traps and were all grouped up around this corner. In fact, they were actually starting the process of digging some more tunnels. Now, these ants still think they're in the nest. They're just trying to dig. Well, I mean, I guess it's pretty smart if you're not getting eaten by the traps. Because over the next 20 minutes, only one single ant came across another Venus flytrap. This guy. Let's call him Larry. Now, Larry is a daredevil because he was walking all over the jaws of all of these plants, absolutely risking it for the biscuit. But eventually, Larry's luck ran out because of this happened. The jaw had closed on him, leaving half of his body stuck out of it. But this was actually pretty good for Larry because it means he had a chance to escape. Using all of his strength, which albeit is not very much, he tried pushing himself out of the jaws. But the trap is designed to just get tighter and tighter as time goes on, meaning this ant was doomed. Well, not actually, because I kind of felt bad for Larry, so I cheated nature and used my tweezers to open the trap. I safely got Larry out and brought him back to the rest of the colony. Anyways, that training actually went really well. Every single ant survived except one. So I brought them all back to the nest and gave the whole colony a bunch of these little gorilla oats to show my support. As you can see, it didn't take long for some of the ants to start moving the oats down to their intricate tunnel systems. And speaking of these tunnel systems, the last training session I'm putting these ants through before the Black Widow is a flood simulation. Yeah, I'm flooding this ant nest.
Well, kinda, because if I actually flooded this thing, it would kill every single ant. So instead, I've got this thing called the Little Dripper, which as you can see, drips some water droplets very slowly.
Yeah, it might seem kind of lame, but this little bit of water should be enough to eventually collapse part of the ant's tunnel system. And if it does collapse, if they can fix it quickly, it means they would have passed all my training missions, and that means they're ready for the Black Widow. So I immediately started to drop the little droplets of water. And initially, the ants were very confused. Some of the droplets were hitting the ants and making them get completely drenched in water. But to my surprise, it almost seemed like the ants wanted to get wet, because more and more of the ants started to gather around where the water was dropping, and eventually a whole pile of ants was getting completely soaked by it. You see, ants are amazing in their ability to work as a team, and in the wild, if a real flood occurred, a massive ant colony would literally join together to make a raft out of their bodies. And that way the important stuff like the queen and eggs could stay on the top and stay dry to ensure the future of the colony. And on a mini scale, this is sort of what the ants are doing here. They're joining together to make a shield out of their bodies that will prevent the water from getting into their tunnels where all the eggs are stored.
Wow, ants are actually amazing. I was totally expecting these tunnels to just collapse from the water, but it seems like ants have literally evolved to do pretty much anything. I'll remove this water. I don't want to do any more harm. You guys prove to me you're very capable.
They instantly took down the cricket, somehow escaped the ant lions, survived the Venus flytraps, and even survived a flood. And throughout that process, they managed to build an awesome nest with a thriving colony.
It is safe to say these ants are ready for my escape. Yeah, don't tell my mom.
But anyways, I went and put the Black Widow in a container so you guys could get a good look at it. And as you can tell, it has that insane, iconic red hourglass abdomen. Wait, sorry. This is my pet robot Black Widow. This is not the real one. Here is the real Black Widow. As you can tell, it's extremely creepy. And under its glossy black abdomen is where the red hourglass is located. These guys have an insane amount of venom, so if it even bites a single ant, it's safe to say it's gonna be a goner. Anyways, here is the tank where the final battle will take place. I went and put a few sticks from my backyard, then I put in the Black Widow. Immediately, she started climbing all over the sticks, and I went and waited a little while she sort of settled in and found a nice spot to rest. Once she did, I went to the ant nest, scooped a good amount of the workers into a tube so we could get this battle started.
Let's get these ants in here. Let the games begin!
Immediately, the ants started to run out of the tube and down onto the sand. When pretty much all of the ants had made it down to the sand, some started to make their way over to the Black Widow, which was just perched right above them on the sticks. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty impatient guy, and I couldn't bear to wait for the battle to start. So I literally picked up the stick myself to bring the spider down to the ants. Immediately, the spider started to run around, and none of the ants really noticed besides this guy. That kind of bit the spider's leg or something and scared it away. The spider tried to escape as fast as it could by climbing the glass, but it was too slick. Once a few other of the ants had noticed the Black Widow was on the ground, they started to jump it. And it was actually pretty funny to watch, because as you can see, there's barely any ants, and the spider was so scared, trying to run away at full speed. Bro, you're like the most venomous spider in the world. Why are you not just fighting back? And yeah, a couple of the ants just kind of continued to terrorize the Black Widow. But the thing is, all of the rest of the ants were kind of just doing their own thing at the other side of the enclosure. I had to make this more interesting, so I had a better plan. I went and picked up all of the ants to bring them back to the nest.
All right, well, I got the Black Widow from the tank, and hey, the title did say 1,000 ants versus Black Widow. Let's actually put this to the test against 1,000 ants.
And well, I dropped the spider inside, and it immediately started going crazy, running everywhere. And obviously, the ants did not act kindly. Every single worker went on red alert mode and jumped onto the spider, grabbing her with their mandibles and repeatedly stinging it over and over. As you saw with the cricket, ants do not mess around with stuff in their nest. And to my surprise, the Black Widow did not even get a chance to fight back. It's actually pretty crazy how quickly the ants had pinned it down and started to devour it. And yeah, well, that's literally all that happened. And that should answer your question of who wins in a fight. 1,000 ants definitely wins, and they basically beat everything. There's a reason why ants are the secret king of the animal kingdom, because there's quadrillions of ants around the world.
Oh, one final thing. I have an important message to all the kids and families and parents watching out there. Because
these are mealworms, and they're known for their ability to eat almost anything. But what if you put 10,000 mealworms on a whole watermelon? How quickly would they completely eat it and turn it to mush despite its massive size?
yeah, I don't know. So that's why I bought 10,000 meal